Welcome to Level 1 Walkthrough. I'm your host, Tony, and I'm proud to announce that we no longer have an actual reoccurring guest anymore. Uh, Rob, aka Big Boss, has now become uh, permanent, and this is lifetime. I don't think I had mentioned that, but it's lifetime, unbinding. It's kind of like a blood brother kind of thing, where it's a blood pact thing, where you can't get away from it anymore.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I'm
it,
sorry. I failed to mention all those things, but it was all disclosed in the paperwork.
oh shit. So is this the same contract that we came across with my Kojima's April Fool's thing?
Yes,
Yes. Good.
yes.
Thank
It's similar towards that.
you. Yeah.
Funny enough, I actually found it, online, reliable sources, and they said it's legally, and just one of those things that you just can't get out. So
I guess I should have read that before I signed it.
yeah, yeah. It's well, I mean that 1,000-page contract.
Yeah. Who wants to read that?
Who wants to get through that? Just sign it and don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Until something happens, then you're fucked.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
So yeah, we just now Rob's going to be a part of the podcast now, and I think it's really going to be fun, man, because you really do have you just have from the very beginning, like when you and I just started talking, you have just an easygoing, just you talk a lot about the stuff that we both kind of liked. We gelled really quickly, especially for us working together. It's just I really do like that you wanted to be a part of it, and then I kind of slowly wanted to, like, maybe if you're interested, if you wanted to. So I really do appreciate that you wanted to be a part of this, because it's having that ebb and flow with somebody is just it makes everything run a lot smoother.
yeah. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me, and thanks for thinking about this whole thing happening. But it's fun, man. It's easy to talk to you and just shooting the shit, and that's
Yeah,
that's all it's all about. Just playing games and talking it out.
exactly. It's funny too, because little kind of side story, but I was talking to my cousin yesterday, and I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, I would, because I've he's the same cousin that I kind of have been shit talking for a while in past episodes, and only because I would love to have him on there, because him and I." He's the cousin that I played a lot of games with when I was a kid, along
Mm,
with my brother.
yeah.
So I wanted to have him come on, because, like, talk about stuff that we did when we were playing, like, games at the arcades, at home, at his place, things like that we did as kids. But I talked to him yesterday, and I was like, I got him kind of thinking about wanting to actually do it, and I was like, hey, you know what? He's a big Terminator fan, so I was like, you know what? Why don't you just come on board, and just we could just talk about Terminator. We could talk about Terminator 1, 2, and then the continuous sequel, which is the Dark Fate, which is Terminator 6. But I wanted to, like, talk to him about that, because he's near and dear, kind of exactly like how you and I talked, where the first two movies are just, they're masterpiece action piece movies, and it's just they couldn't get it right,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get his perspective on that. So talking about that, I kind of explained, like, having somebody along with you, and talking about it's kind of a little, like, cathartic. Like, you feel like you can actually, like, have another voice. You feel like you can actually another person is kind of like similar towards the things that you're interested in. It just makes everything a lot easier. So
Yeah, and even if like people have similar interests, you
yeah,
still have different perspectives. Like you may have not even come across or heard or read or this or that. So
right,
it's definitely helpful. So that would be a good idea. Is get them on and kind of
yeah,
go through shit like that. That's a
yeah.
really good idea.
And just like the that bow tie game that you were telling me about, I didn't know anything about that. And watching the actual trailer of that video when they first announced it, I was just looking at it, I was like, man, this game looks really cool. It's got, like, some stealth elements into it. It's amazing when you see those small little breadcrumbs of a game an idea that Kojima was having, that morphed into what became Metal Gear. Because there's elements in there, like the stealth elements is in there as well. So it's just, and the look of the character, it's just it's very reminiscent towards that, and I'm just like, man, you saw that before. That was well before it even came about into what it is now.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing that kind of stuff. Is just kind of melding and mixing, his original thoughts on the original Metal Gear with this
Yeah,
game and something a little bit different to what he would normally do. Like we were talking about with Death Stranding or PT or what have you. He's very he can if he likes an idea, he'll go through and kind of you know see it through to the point whether it works or it doesn't. And if he
Hmm.
believes in it enough, that I mean, that's it. It's over. He just has to convince other people to buy in.
Yeah, I mean, just that whole idea of having the game revolve around the sun and actually having you go outside, it's like very early additions to what Pokemon Go
Hmm.
did for people, getting them out and actually walking around and being a part of the outside world instead of being inside. The forethought that he had to see that kids want to do that anyways because they want to go out and play. It's like, why wouldn't this work? And how he came up with that idea or even got it to work,
I
that's
I don't.
really interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing with that game, like we were talking about with controllers and how we're seeing the future, and developers innovating upon what new technology is out there. That's something that's, again, no one would have
Yeah.
thought of, and it's something that he added into the game that he, the concept of his game that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
But that's just super cool to see where we could go if it's going to be something different, like a flower or a bow tie or something like that.
Right. 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 Yeah, so this is part two of our last episode because you and I went on a tangent on what the future of games are looking going to be potentially 10, 20 years. But I'll take the fault on that because I had an agenda because all I wanted to get to was to talk about the PlayStation 2 commercial that showcased the PlayStation 9 set in the future of 2078. That was my whole thing.
It's all
'Cause I
good,
love
man.
talk. I love talking about that kind of stuff, man, because it really makes you kind of think outside of the box, and especially the way that games have evolved and changed. That's always a cool little topic to be able to jump into. But it ran a lot longer than we thought. But that's kind of the trend now. It's kind of coming into like a 2 hour podcast, but it doesn't even feel like it.
No, it doesn't. That's what I
No,
love about it, is just being able to have a conversation and talk about anything that pops into our heads, and whether it
exactly.
goes short or long in a segment or whatever, I'm down.
Yeah. All right. So I got another little segment that we continued from the first one. This one now, instead of having those five little songs, it's just gonna be one.
Okay.
So this one, it just kind of this is a nice little like friendly reminder of like what games were like back in the early '90s of during the Nintendo, Super Nintendo's, Sega Genesis era. So this one's near and dear to me. So I'm gonna play this. This is just gonna be something like know your 8-bit sound or something like that. Haven't defined it yet, but we're just gonna play a little something, a couple seconds, and then you tell me if you think you remember what it is.
Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
How do I know that? It.
Oh,
I do. Now, can I say, is it a side-scrolling shooter?
no.
Damn it.
It is a side scroller.
For some reason, I thought it was
It's
Contra, and it's not.
yeah, it's kind of got that same kind of upbeat
Hmm.
beginning tempo. Yeah. No, it's an original Nintendo game.
Mm, I have a feeling I know this is gonna. It's gonna hurt when I hear it. Well,
Would you like a guess
I would like a hint.
or a hint?
Yes.
Would you like a hint?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, hmm. It's hard to give a hint.
Maybe like a
Uh,
year, publisher, or something like that. I know it was hard back
uh.
then. The NES had.
Oh, well, the publisher is Ultra.
Oh, because that was Konami. Fucking.
Hmm.
I knew that. Because they would. That's how they would get more games out. And Nintendo
Yeah.
kind of forced them to do like 1 a year, 2 a year, something. So they
Yeah.
ended up doing that. Ultra shit. That didn't help. Hmm.
Do you wanna hear it again? Maybe that might give you a little insight, or what do you want another hint? Or I can give you the year.
Give me the year.
1989.
Hmm. That'll help me. All right, what is it? I'm gonna like blow my brains out over here.
All right, hold on a second. Before you do that, let me just finish a little bit of the song and see maybe if it comes to you.
Okay. Mm, no, I don't know. What is it?
Ninja Turtles, man. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh no! You know, I was actually going through GameStop's they had like a pro sale on Saturday, and I was going through because they had like a buy one new game and get like five pre-owned games, and
Mm-hmm.
I was going through the like a list of stuff, and I saw Ninja Turtles on I think it was PS3 that they did. I forget what the title was, but I almost bought it because I'm like, oh, I never played this. I remember people talking about it, but it never really sold well.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, fucking what Turtle in Time or whatever was it called?
Oh man, that one when that one came out at the arcades, that blew my mind. As a young kid, seeing a game where not only can you play as your favorite turtle, but you can play all four of them, and the way that like Turtles in Time, even just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade when that came out, that was just that drove me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But Turtles in Time, man, that was just on another stratosphere when I saw that.
I
It blew my mind.
I love being able to like you said, choose whoever you want to, but you can
Hmm.
also play co-op with people. Damn, that fucking
Yeah,
game was hard as shit too.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god, but that
Who's
was
your who's your go to player and or your favorite?
both would be Raphael.
Okay.
That's my boy. I don't know. When I was a kid, I liked the color red, so I
Uh
always
huh.
gravitated to him. But then, like learning about how he's kind of like a sarcastic asshole,
Yeah.
I kind of like that. So
Gravitated
um,
towards that a little bit more.
I like the little size that he had, even though like in the game it was hard because there was no like reach as much
Yeah.
as let's say
Yeah, you
other
had to get really
characters.
close.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of
Yeah.
sucked, but
Yeah, I liked because he would spin it in Turtles in Time. He would spin his actual size,
mhm.
and then in the arcade, when Ninja Turtles came out, um, that one he would just like kind of like poke, like he would like
Mhm.
he had a little bit of a jab
Mhm.
with that. But my go-to and my favorite is Donatello, always,
Okay.
all the time. Donatello was my favorite. I got the toy. I even had like they added their little utility belt for the Ninja Turtle, and then I had his bow was like behind there, and it would stick behind his back or behind his shell. Oh man, I
Damn,
had
you went all out.
all. Oh, dude, I had all the toys. I had all the toys. I lost a lot of them. I actually did take them over to my cousin's place, the same cousin I was talking about
Hmm.
that I talked to yesterday. I took them over to his place and they disappeared, or he'd come over and stuff would disappear, and I don't know. I believe he did take them, or it got misplaced or whatever. But we were kids,
Yeah.
so I mean, whatever.
That
I don't hold it against him.
No, that happened all the time. Did you have the van like that Turtles
No,
van
I
thing that
never had. I never had that. I wanted to so bad to have that, but I never got it. The closest thing the closest thing now as an adult would be just getting the DVD of all the TV show because they have an actual turtle van that you could put the actual
Oh,
the DVD sleeves into,
dude, that's
or like the
cool.
box set, and it's like a little the turtles little.
Hmm.
I mean, the whole thing itself is in there, so the van itself was all put together. So,
Oh, that's really cool.
but no, I never got that. There were so many little things that you can get with that. I mean, I just my favorite was always just Donatello, but I mean, I would go and get all the other ones too. Like Leonardo was cool because you can put his swords up too, so it's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
so cool. But those arcades, man, especially playing them at home.
Yeah,
Dude, I played that so much, so much.
dude, I remember going to Burger King during the time of the Secret of the Ooze movie,
Hmm.
and I remember getting a poster and I put it on my wall and it was there forever, and I love that movie.
Hmm.
I didn't go back and watch one, two, or three in a very very long time,
Hmm.
um, but I miss those movies. I remember like watching them as a kid, and
Yeah.
just loving it.
Yeah, the first one actually does hold up. It's pretty remarkable on how they were able to actually introduce these turtles for the first time, especially in a motion picture,
Hmm.
and get them to like make them feel like real, like I guess vulnerable kids. You know, they were still they're still in their adolescence. So I just my favorite was when Raphael gets beat up by the Foot Clan, and
Yep.
then they throw him from the roof, and
Hmm.
he falls through the was it the was it the, it's like a glass ceiling. They throw him through that, and then he falls down. He's injured, and then they save him. But like I remember that, and I remember when he was injured, and they put him
In the
April
bathtub.
puts him in the bathtub,
Yeah.
and then like his leg is sticking out, and he's injured. It's just like, man, like this whole movie could have just been like just for kids, where it's more of like the kid, like they're more animated,
Hmm.
it's more of an actual, the characters didn't seem so dark, like there's a lot of like shadows behind like these characters, so that they weren't brightly lit all the time, so it's like the mood of the movie was just entirely different.
I love that. I mean, I again, like when we were kids watching this stuff, we enjoyed it. It wasn't
Hmm.
like super cartoony. It wasn't all bright colors. All everything was great all the time. But like as you grow older and you look back, you're like, damn, that shit was actually dark as shit.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't even understand why my mom took me to go see that. But like you see the title, you see Ninja Turtles, you're like, ah, well, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, do you going to the second one in the movie, The Secret of the Ooze, uh is that one's a guilty pleasure movie, or do you like the actual movie itself?
So the whole like Ah. So like there's parts of it that I enjoy and that I like, but then it gets as you look back, you're like,
Hmm.
what the fuck is going on? Because that was the movie with Ice, Vanilla Ice, right? With the
Yes.
concert, and then I like
Yes.
that they introduced. I think that's when they first introduced the two villains. What are their names? I can't
It wasn't. It was
remember.
supposed to be
Rocksteady,
It was supposed to be Bebop and Rocksteady,
but
but
it
it
wasn't.
wasn't.
It was some like weird monster thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
For
the first one, the first movie is like by far like the better of the two. I just remember vividly more the second one than I did the first.
Token and Razor.
Token,
That's what
yeah,
it
that's
was.
what it was. Yeah, they ate their fucking
Yes.
cakes or some shit that they
Yes.
put. Just now remembering like small shit
Yes.
from that movie. I
Yeah.
it was another like I liked the one where they went back in time to like the Japanese era, even though everyone hated that one.
That's the third one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the third one. I'm like, I liked it.
That one's bad. Just
It's
because it's like
supposed to be bad.
it's about,
They were running out of ideas. They're like, "Fuck it, let put them back in time. Let's do it." Just like the
who,
video game.
who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like samurais.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have like a little thing that looked like that thing from Masters of the Universe? You remember that movie? Remember when it came out with Dolph Lundgren, where he was He-Man?
Dude,
Did you ever see that movie?
I didn't see the movie. I know, like, I remember watching one movie where they added him in there, um, and I forget what the fuck it was. So probably some kind of stoner movie or something.
Well, yeah, I forget which character it was, but he was like not like he's like a troll, but he was like a wizard or something like that, and he had this device that was like in his hand, and it was like his way to transport somebody from one point in time to another,
Hmm.
and it was basically his time machine, and that reminds me of that in that movie with the Turtles 3. That's the first thing I always think of, that in the samurai uniforms. But they even had toys for that too.
Yeah,
They had toys for that. They had toys for everything, man. I mean, come on,
of course.
the whole thing was just to sell toys,
Yeah,
and it worked,
just like
and it worked.
Transformers. Oh, can
Hmm.
I like go on a little side thing since we're talking about movies? Fuck, dude.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
like I'm watching the kind of funny guys doing their watch along thing with they're reviewing like movies and stuff. Right now they're doing like Transformers.
Oh, is that with Greg Miller? You're
Yeah.
talking about kind of funny
Yep.
games? Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm watching that stuff, and so I was watching the second Transformers movie, and oh
Hmm.
my fucking god, that was the worst piece of garbage that I have
Hmm.
seen in a very, very, very long time. Like
Hmm.
Toe Thumbs McGee. is there like showing her ass while like Green Day is playing while she's like on a fucking motorcycle tattooing like shit on
Yeah.
there. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this is all kinds of fucked up. Like it's nonsense.
Mhm.
It's a I could only get through maybe like a half hour before I was like I can't. I turned it off. It was really bad.
You know, it's amazing how those movies are still very successful, even not so much in the U.S. but like worldwide.
Hmm.
They still make a, I mean, they make so much money. It's stupid,
Yeah.
but I remember watching the first one in the theaters, and I was really excited for that because I remember seeing the trailers. I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be awesome!" And the beginning of the actual first movie, the tempo of it, I was like, "Oh man, this is awesome!"
The
Like
first one
you
wasn't
can
bad.
actually,
Wasn't
yeah,
bad.
you can actually see them actually transform. They actually had movements. It would slow down. You could see the gears and everything everything turning around, and it went into slow motion. You can see it.
Yes.
And then when I saw the second one, I remember seeing. I was so I mean I. There's parts of that movie that I don't like, but overall, I like the actual movie because my favorite scene is when in the first movie is when Starscream comes in and he like starts decimating like in the downtown area where he starts wiping out the Autobots, and then there's a scene where he transforms and then goes on the ground and like pushes all these cars, and then he starts shooting everybody, and then he transforms into the airplane again, but he does like a backflip and he transforms into the plane and then takes off. I was like, dude, that's so awesome, and I've seen that so many times, man, and I'm just, it's so cool. But when I saw the second one, the animation changed and it looks so weird on screen. I'm like, what is going on? Like you can't see anything.
Hmm.
It seemed they seemed to move a
Hmm.
little weirder. It seemed like they weren't there. And I'm like, what is going on? Like why is there such a disconnect between the first one and the other movies? Like did they cheapen in on the animation and like the CGI
I,
from the first one?
I
It's totally different.
to me, looking at this, and people have said this for a long periods of time, but I remember seeing, I forget which one it was. It might have been like the third one or something in theaters. And I was sitting there in the theater and I'm like, I cannot see anything. I don't know who's who. I don't
Yeah.
know who's fighting. They're just like a bunch of metal that just, goes into a ball and then
Mhm.
something gets destroyed, something blows up, and I'm like, okay, so what?
Yeah.
I don't care. And
Yeah.
it's like the contrast of the cartoons. You can, they mention this in the podcast is, you know, these people have, or these bots have distinct colors. You can differentiate one from the next because of
Yeah.
their colorful nature. Like on the screen, I know it's more realistic, but at the same time, like, he could turn it into a big, truck. So like make that a different color so it's brighter. Like do something
Right.
small, and then that way you can kind of and then also anytime there's a fight scene, try not to put it into like the city. I know that it's better there to get more destruction, all that stuff. But if you're gonna do
Right.
that, turn it into slow mo, so you can actually see what actually is progressing, or what's happening in front of you. But it's so hard to see what's actually going on and what's not, and it's annoying because I'm like, oh well, what's the point?
Yeah, like I know the what was that one with the where it's like a medieval time and they have swords and it's with Merlin, I think.
Oh,
Uh,
you're talking about like last
I don't know, the Knights Fallen or something like that. I don't remember.
was it Age of Extinction?
I don't remember. I
No,
know it's just one that has it has Optimus Prime that he's holding a sword.
I do
I don't
remember
remember.
that one.
But
Um,
I bring that up because I remember watching that, and I vaguely remember the movie, but I don't even remember them even transforming from what they were from like Optimus Prime being the vehicle or being a truck.
that was probably
And
last
it,
night because
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't even remember seeing them actually transform. Like they would transform off screen from a car into the Autobot or into the actual like their regular form,
Hmm.
their humanized form, and then they would transform into like whatever, but you would never see that transition. Like they went ahead and said, ah, forget it, we don't even need to do that anymore.
Yeah, keep them stuck in whatever, but then that's boring. I like to see them transit. That's the whole point.
Yeah, like even the first one they did that, like it was cool, like that scene when they're on the freeway
Mm-hmm.
and Optimus Prime was fighting, and then you could see them transform in between,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see Optimus Prime while he's driving he's driving on the freeway in the truck, and then he transforms automatically, and then he jumps in front of him and to stop himself, and
Yeah.
then to fight the guy behind him. It's like, man,
That
this is so cool.
that's the part that's badass, is being able to go transitioning from, being a car like they were, and then into a bot, and then coming back. Like,
Yeah,
that's the cool thing, and slow that part down. But
yeah.
there's so many of them. They made money, so they just kept like do something and shit on it. Michael Bay is just, oh man, I don't know.
If I mean, come on, man. If he can't even explain like why people need to like watch 4K TVs, did you ever see that meltdown that he had?
No.
He Okay, so he went on stage to like promote these new TVs, so like new
Mm-hmm.
uh big huge 4K or 5K or whatever TVs. And it's something that you can just, as someone that's all he's all about explosions,
Mm-hmm.
action, it's all dumb, it's popcorn flicks. He couldn't even answer a reason why you should get those. He like fumbled at the mouth, and like he got so I don't know what happened to him. Like it's like maybe he had like a brain fart or something,
Mm-hmm.
but he couldn't even explain why you should have these TVs or why you should get them. He just walked off the stage.
Oh shit! So he couldn't even
He
articulate his
he
point. He was
couldn't
just like,
even.
"Oh, I'm done."
He's like he did like they asked, like it was just something simple like why should people have big TVs like that? Like as somebody that just makes action movies, you could be like, this is great on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You can see everything. The explosions now. You could hear them even from distances from one side or the other.
The lighting's
Simple.
better. Like, you can say anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anything.
Couldn't even do it. Like he just. It's like all of a sudden he's back as like a little kid, back in school, and he just peed himself,
Oh shit.
and knows that he just peed himself, and everybody knows.
Oh
And what
man.
can you do? Either cry, or you run out of the class, and you just hope to God that they at least forget. But kids never forget.
Nope.
And
It's true.
if you ever see it, man, it's hilarious to just see him just like stop and like not like deer in headlights and not know what to say. I don't know. I only say that just because like the movies that he's made with with Transformers itself dumbs it down to a level of like it's just it's horrendous on what they did with some of these characters and just how
Mm-hmm.
insensitive they were, and it's like almost as if he's talking down to his own audience that are paying to watch these movies. Like you're stupid for watching these movies and
Mm-hmm.
paying for it, but I'm also gonna poke fun at you
Mm-hmm.
because you like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, man, that's I don't you don't want to see a movie like that. If you want someone to just laugh at you, you just go on the internet and you look at YouTube comments.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the Transformers, but yeah, that's I mean I understand like that it was just different. It different between those other movies, and it's unbelievable. Like they still make money.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
that's the
You
thing.
can't fight something that people buy.
No,
Whatever.
and that's the thing, is like, if people are gonna pay money to go watch it, and there's still a substantial
Hmm.
audience to go see it, all right, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no one's
Yeah.
gonna stop you from doing it. If you enjoy those films, great, wonderful. It's
Yeah.
just, you know use your money wisely when it comes to stuff like that. If you don't like it,
Ex-
don't even bother spending money on it.
yeah. Just you just vote with your wallet. That's always my motto.
Yep, or pirate. I mean, I didn't say that. Don't do that. That's
You
against the
did that in
law.
quotes.
Yeah,
You said that in
quotes.
quotes.
Can't see, it's a podcast, so there you go.
Yeah. You had air quotes. I saw it.
Yeah.
I heard it. All right, so let's go into what's going on in the world in gaming news. Since this is the second part of our podcast, and we were supposed to get to that in the first. Now let's jump into this before we get ourselves into another topic, and it's 3 hours from now.
Yeah. There you go.
So what you got?
As far as news goes,
Yeah.
so in, I would say, a new segment called Kojima's Corner. Something popped up today. I don't know if this is like a joke or whatever, but Kojima Productions has a raincoat, a Death Stranding themed raincoat, to be specific. That's worth almost $2,000.
What?
Yeah. So it looks like the raincoat from the game that Sam wears. Doesn't look like there's too many things that are special about it, although there's like a yellow spot in the front. I don't know if it's a pocket of some sort, but the guy in the picture is wearing that with, the little baby uh,
Yeah, the
plastic
BB.
toy BB in there. But that's interesting that they made a raincoat for it. But I mean, Kojima has like clothing line on websites and things like that.
Right.
So that's very. I don't know why it's $2,000, but whatever.
Well, you know the reason why is because it's exclusively made.
Who's
It's
buying that?
cool looking. There's always somebody buying for something, man. There's always stuff like that. But
Like,
that's uh, I'm looking at what you're talking about, and I can.
yeah.
A part of me is just like there's something about it that I like, just because it's so different. I
Hmm.
think just that the attachment with the that BB in front of you is just it's so weird. But if you had that little thing behind you, that little sensor thing, that little thing,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
would
that
be
popped up.
that I would want to have more than anything, like because that it's like an attachment you can have on your shoulder and you can just walk around with that. Like I think that would just be cool just to have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cosplayers that already started a long time ago before the game even came out of like their own versions of what he wears in the game to kind of
Right,
cosplay about it. So it's something.
right.
I mean, no one's really asking for it, but I guess it's cool for people. I don't know again why it's so expensive, but it's cool that it's there. I guess.
That's crazy. That's crazy that it's two. It's is that just the selling price 2,000, or is that just because it's on eBay, or is that on his website?
I didn't check his website. I just got this from where is it from? Can't remember
The,
where I got it from.
somewhere on the
Might
World
as
Wide
well use
Web.
that. Yeah, so just Google search it, you'll find it. But
Wow.
the other thing that I saw that I was mentioning to you earlier was the Venom Snake hoodie that I wanted really bad. This one looks a lot different from the one that I um, was looking at. But essentially, just to give you a picture, it's a green hoodie, a thin green
Hmm.
hoodie. It says Venom Snake with a five or in red, and then snakes, or if you're wearing it, left arm is red because that's where he lost his hand or his arm
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
some of it anyway, which is really cool. I like that. It's a very subtle kind of thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's why it's red right there, and it shows his name. That's I like stuff like that where it's gaming clothing related without being obnoxiously like, oh, this is me.
Right.
I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. So it's
Or
not
it's subtle.
subtle.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's all I got for that.
Now, if you were to get that, would you wear that on a daily basis?
I no. I mean, like if I bought it, I would
Yeah.
force myself to wear it because it's I spent $2,000 on it.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, it's not something that I would wear honestly.
Okay. Would there be anything that you would actually wear that could be a part of, like maybe it's not like a whole outfit where it's it's like a jacket, shirt,
Oh yeah,
pants,
man.
shoes.
Dude, my closet's full of like nerdy like clothing. So I have like Marvel stuff. I've got like the one the one shirt that I have that I call fancy, which my fiance says it's not fancy. It's just a black shirt, and then it has a banana peel from like Mario Kart, a shell on it. It has the squid from the underwater scenes, a bullet bill in there. So it's I mean, you could tell what it is, but I have it. I call it my fancy shirt.
Oh my
She
god.
doesn't. She doesn't think it's fancy, but I do.
Oh my god.
So I have stuff like that that I wear on a normal basis anyway. I'm okay. So I'm okay with it.
That's your fancy out. That's when you're going out. That's
And I mean, just as a
you
compromise,
dress up.
she's like, "Oh, you can dress up, but we'll keep it, nerdy as well." I have a teal Pikachu like button up. So
Yeah, I've seen that one.
I
You
think I
brought that
showed you.
into work.
Yeah. So I keep it, both worlds. Got to keep a balance is what I like to say.
Okay.
Keep a balance.
Oh man. The closest I would ever get to like anything wearing something like that would be I would always want to have like something subtle, like as far as like the closest thing that I have to like anything that's like nerd, where like it's subtle enough where you're not going to notice, is a long time, not a long time, about 2 years ago. Uh, I ended up getting in touch with a guy that does a lot of prop building for like he does like replicas and stuff like that for like props of
Oh, okay.
movies, or like he does it because he has a 3D printer and he does all the stuff, he likes it. So him and I got to talking, and this was just at a bar. Random guy,
Mm.
he was just sitting there by himself. He was watching something, and I saw his wallpaper that had a bunch of like all these movie props.
Mm.
And I guess I don't know what it was, but it was something that just caught my eye. I was like, "Oh, you got that? I think that's the RoboCop. Was that the original RoboCop? That big gun that he uses? Is that a replica?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we just started talking. Anyways, so the guy actually, I told him, I was like, "Listen, this is the only thing I want. Can you make me a Fifth Element multipass,
Oh
what
shit.
it looks like in the movie?" And if you've seen that movie, that multipass is being shown. It's like the credit card ID, whatever,
Hmm.
but they call it a multipass. And I've always loved that thing. So I give him my info. I don't hear from him from like 3 months. And all of a sudden he hits me up and says, "Hey, I made what you want." He made it for me, and that's what I have. I have the actual thing, and he actually made it so then you can actually put in your ID. There's a little slip,
Oh fuck,
so
that's
you can
cool.
put your ID in there. Yeah, and then even did the Corbin Dallas one where it's like Bruce Willis's character's name's Corbin Dallas.
Hmm.
He actually has that on there too, so it's like a card that you can slip out, so you could actually use it as a wallet if you wanted to. The only problem is that I have it, I can't use it because if I put it in my back pocket, it'll break. So it's like a hard
Yeah.
kind of plastic. And he was going to try to make me a metallic one that I can be able to have, but I just can't do it. But it's like that's the closest thing that I would have. Like like clothing wise, I don't have those stuff so where it's like, like for you where you have like your gaming attire on you.
Hmm.
Mine is like more of like I like to have like things like that. Like if I could, that would be my replacement for a wallet. Like my multipass would just I just pull that out and just pull my card out and use it. But I can't because I break it. So then I'm just like, I
Yeah.
have it. But it's so much fun, man, to just have stuff like that because it's just like I had never seen anybody have that. Like if I could put it on my keychain and be able to have it, I tried
Hmm.
doing that, but I was so afraid of breaking it.
Yeah. I mean,
But
that's something that is like a replica where you just keep, as opposed
yeah,
to like be an actual use for it on a daily basis. But
yeah,
I'm a huge like big kid. Like I have like a bunch of clothes that are all video game related and stuff like that. My girl got me a Legend of Zelda like wallet that I don't wear anymore just because it got too bulky.
hmm
But it's stuff like that. I don't really care what I wear. Who cares? If I like it, I like it. If someone doesn't, who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's all I'm about.
You're not worried about them.
No, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, your best the best thing for you is anyone that gives you any kind of shit. You just like, oh, okay, and then you just turn your back and walk away.
that's that's one of the things
That's
that
the
you do like
it's the
about me. Is
it's,
just like, oh yeah,
it's
you
the
know what?
best thing.
Fuck it. I'm turning around and walking away.
Yeah,
Shit.
like I'm not even gonna bother even discussing why I'm wearing my my Mario shirt that has a bunch of like turtle shells around it. I'm not gonna explain it to
No,
you. I'm turning around. I'm walking away.
not wasting my breath over here. And fuck off.
I'm wearing it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. You're not wearing it. Why you have an issue with it? Shit. That's
you
how I
got so many
feel.
other you got so many other problems in the world. Don't
Yeah.
worry about that.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Oh man. All right. Well, for my on my end, the only really thing that I really wanted to kind of just talk about was there's that game Crisis that came out
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
several years back is now getting a remastered version of it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I wanted to mention it is just because that game was just really polarizing to like for PC owners to be able to like maximize
Mm-hmm.
like push their PC to the max because that game was like a real test and a real benchmark to like see where your PC can hold up if it can play that game.
Yep.
Um, but it's interesting too because it not only is it going to PC, it's going to Xbox One, PS4, but it's also going to the Nintendo Switch.
Weird. Really
I know.
weird. I remember hearing about that game. What was it, like
Yeah.
2007 or something like that?
Yeah.
And damn, dude, I didn't really have like a powerful PC at that time to be able to play
Yeah.
shit like that. But I just remember reading all of that, like just it's pushing PCs. You can't even play, and then all the memes came out. It's like
Yeah.
your rig won't even play Crisis. But the fact that
Right.
they announced it also for the Switch, I'm like, well, this was also me saying the same thing about The Witcher. I'm like, how the fuck did they
Yeah.
do that? But I mean, shit. If it works, it works. I mean, they wouldn't announce it for the Switch if they didn't see it like feasible. But it's so weird to see that.
I know, but even that too with going to the Switch, like Doom, the original Doom that came out 3 years ago. Was it 2 or
20,
3 years
yeah,
ago?
2016, yeah.
Yeah, that when that came out, they put that on the Switch as well. It was kind of like the resolution was like dumbed down,
Mm-hmm.
but they also did that too with Doom Eternal as well. And that game, it relies a lot on like the refresh rate and
Mm-hmm.
for it to not to like hiccup. So I'd be interested to see if that game can even play because Crisis, like, I mean, come on. I mean they're talking about the first game. They're not talking about Crisis 2
No.
or Crisis 3.
Yeah,
They're just
and
talking about the original.
I've noticed even just like seeing like side by side screenshots of even like The Witcher and how like the lighting effects are
Yeah.
more duller on, or like I feel like they use that a lot, is to like still make it look graphically nice. It's just they use the lighting resources there to kind of not just dull it, but also change it in a way where it's not as intensive, maybe
Right.
on the RAM or anything. But
Right.
that's crazy to see that
I know.
announcements, and
I
it's
know.
still random too. I'm like, what the fuck? Who was even?
Yeah.
Did anybody ask
I
for this?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, back when that came out, I remember when it first was like they were talking about it, and like the cool stuff that you can do, the destruction, the way that you can actually grab a person and like you're choking them and you're still holding your gun in your right hand and you're choking them with your left hand,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can throw them up against somebody. It's like a big sandbox game that you can be able to just annihilate everybody, and you can cloak. I like the sound effect that you have when you go into cloaking, and it has that little kind of like a, it's got like a weird sound that when the suit activates and it goes into stealth mode, uh, it's got like a weird kind of like sound to it. It kind of reminds me maybe like of the Predator,
Mm-hmm.
of when he cloaks himself, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
but not really. But it's like a weird kind of sound. It kind of sounds like a snake, like slithering or something like that. Weird kind of like a, it sounds like a wet sound that's like kind of stretching or something like that. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I like the actual sound of it because I watched a lot of videos of that because I couldn't play that. My computer at that time, forget it. I mean, I wasn't gonna invest $3,000 for a PC, high end PC just to play that game. Like,
Fuck no.
it's not
Plus,
worth it.
at that time, I was coming out of high school too. I remember it was that, and then another big one was that was more open world, was Far Cry, the original Far Cry, and
Yes.
they're using the same. I think it was the same. It was Crytek or whatever that did that, but
Yeah.
it like the engine or whatever like was similar to the same games, but it that was really cool seeing like an open kind of thing and still being so graphically intensive, and it looked really cool.
Yeah.
But it was always something like, oh, I wish I could play that. I'm like, no way, I can afford to spend, like you said, $3,000 on one. Well, not just one game, but for a game that is gonna need that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool. Like I'm actually looking forward to like picking it up on PS4 and seeing how it looks. And I'm sure it's not going to look as good as a PC when you turn everything on and blow up your computer somehow.
I know, and it's crazy too because I mean that game came out in 2005, so I wonder why they're doing that. Maybe they're getting ready to like maybe revive the Crisis game itself. Maybe because I mean whenever they do any remasters,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of maybe testing out the waters to see if people are still very interested in selling wise because they can always come back and make another one because I remember when they did the in the Cry engine when they started talking about that. When they did Crisis 2, they talked about how the AI was going to be so smart. They would be able to
Mm-hmm.
lunge over things. They would anticipate what you're doing. They would flank you and all those things. And I remember I played that game because at that point you can be able to play it. And I played the second one, and dude, man, some of the AI was so dumb. Like it would get stuck on something, and it would start running in a circle, like
Mm.
running in a roundabout circle, for no reason. Like the AI was not finished. So whatever they promised in what the cry engine could
Hmm.
do with the AI, they didn't finish it. I mean, and it's just I wonder if they're going to like test this out, test the market to see if there's going to be another one that's going to be coming out, like a crisis revision or something like that, or like
Oh, I could see that.
a reboot.
I could see that a lot. And then, like you said, that's what they do. They throw in remasters to kind of gauge where everybody is at. And if the sales are up, they're going to do another one. So I think that's very very cool to see because again, I never played the original. So I'm
Did you play any of them when they came out on the actual console?
no,
Okay.
no, I never played any of those. I got into Far Cry, but none of the
Did,
those
okay.
games.
Did you play Far Cry 2?
Okay, so I was looking through my like case of games, and I
Yes.
because I was picking up something else that I wanted to actually
Uh-huh.
play, and I saw that, and I remember putting in maybe 12 hours in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't like about it was uh, the controls felt very heavy with
Mm-hmm.
regards to the guns and the weapons. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
like that. I love the idea because that was in Africa or some kind of safari kind of area,
Yeah.
right? And then that was
Yeah.
like the first time they kind of introduced dynamic like environments in a way where you can like well not the first time but like one of the ways where it really seemed cool to me at least with I think it was in the E3 trailer where they were showing how the fire kind of
Mm-hmm.
spread and you can use
Mm-hmm.
that to your advantage during like enemy fights and things like that. So
Right. Right.
I played as much as I could of the second one,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I enjoyed parts and elements of it. I really liked more 3 and 4 than any of the other ones.
Hmm. Yeah, that's it's interesting that you say that with the second one not being, you played a little bit but you liked the other versions of it. I loved Far Cry 2. That one out of all of them is my favorite because that game was so difficult.
That
Everything
too.
they everything they threw at you, all of a sudden you get bombarded and getting shot at, and your weapon would jam, your magazine wouldn't reload. You'd have to push the reload button to like pull the actual bullet out or pull the magazine out. The guns would have wear and tear after you use
Hmm.
them too much. They would stop working. You'd have to get new ones.
Hmm.
On top of that, if you got shot or injured, you'd have to pull the bullet out. You'd have to like heal yourself while they're
Yep.
shooting at you.
Yep.
And then to make everything that much worse, they throw malaria at you. Where all of a sudden you'll get malaria,
Hmm.
these weird like you start to get sick and you have to take malaria pills. Like it's like not only on top of that, your character's sick.
Yep.
It's just it's a huge game, man. I remember playing it and I was so frustrated, so upset.
Hmm.
I would remember playing it and I'd go in stealthily. I would go into every situation stealthily. Would use my sniper rifle, and the sound that they use with the bolt action sniper rifle when you shoot somebody, and it just had that real kick to it. It had a real good sound to it. So like the guns and the weapons, they felt really heavy. Like you were saying, they felt heavy and they had a real big sound to them. So it's like that one I really really liked. I liked the whole idea. It was just you taking down this guy called the Jackal, which was like
Hmm.
some guy that was like selling arms to both sides, and he was just an arms dealer, and you had to just take him down. And it was cool because at the end of it, you get to choose what you want to do. You can choose to kill the guy or not,
Hmm.
and it's interesting that you even had that choice. But that game is just huge, man. I mean, you can drive, and then like if it gets uh damaged too much, you'd have to pop the hood, and you have to use the
Hmm.
wrench to like cool down the engine. It's like they added all these cool things in the game, and they wiped them out in the third one. Like they took away the gun jamming element. I
Hmm.
loved that they did that because it made you think about what you were doing. You didn't want to get into a gunfight all the time.
I think it's a fine balance, right? And I think that's what it is. Is
Hmm.
there's um, different things that people enjoy about that
Hmm.
game because it's so
Hmm.
realistic. They added a lot more elements to being able to navigate yourself using the I think it was the compass or the map, but like in a way where there was not really a mini map, in a way where to like travel and traverse through. Kind of had to like stop, open up something, or to see where you were going.
Right.
Um, Also, the gun jamming, the malaria, being able to repair your cars. Some parts of that I find very unique and compelling, but at the same time, there it can be a pain in the ass and very very frustrating. So I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed more Far Cry 3 than 2. Um, but I like that they did that. It's just it's some games that I don't, and it's just me. Like even with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I'm like, it's such a hard game, and I know everyone's, oh, it's a masterpiece. Oh, you got to play it. Oh, this and that. But like being
Right.
able to go into a game and then have your weapons break all the time, I'm like, all right, man. There's I like some sort of realism, and I get that. I like the
Yeah.
realistic parts, but I
Yeah.
also like to keep the gamey parts there
Right.
as well, so
Yeah.
I'm not as frustrated. So I don't turn into like just we'll open it up and just toss it aside because I'm not getting back to that. But
Well,
I did appreciate what they were trying to do. I do appreciate
yeah.
that.
I mean I like that because like also too like yeah, you had a flamethrower. If you use a flamethrower, it could
Mm,
explode on you.
yep. You had to be very careful. And I think they had
Yes.
Molotov cocktails there too, where just
Yeah.
like you had
Yeah.
to place it in a certain way, the wind's blowing a certain way. I enjoyed those types of things and those types of
Yeah.
additions to that game. But there's some things where I'm just like, oh, come on, dude.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and going from that from the gaming news, but really from that Metro Exodus that I've been playing
hmm
is really kind of taking those elements because there's so many micromanaging things you have to do. But in the way that I've been playing the game is that I've been really stealthily trying to like take out the enemies, and in later chapters you kind of have to go a little guns blazing, and I noticed that like the guns start to jam a little. And I remember when that happened the first time, I was like, it took me right back to Far Cry 2, and I'm like, oh
mm,
yes, yes, I love that. I love that they even put that in there. You know, like it's not only with the Metro series, you really have to micromanage everything. Like you have a small little generator that you have to charge up when it goes out. Your light can go out because you need to just keep your generator up. You have weapons that you can use that you have to be able to like manage what you're using. Like resources are always very
mm,
scarce, so it's like it takes me right back to like what Far Cry 2 was, and just because of those elements, and I really, for some reason, I really like that. And you don't see a lot of games that have that, you know, because it makes, I think it just makes it more dynamic with you using the guns, because in most cases the guns are always perfectly being used, like they're always
hmm
brand new when you're using them. I like that there's some wear and tear to them.
hmm I mean, it makes it again more realistic in a sense with, as long as it's not just overbearing. Like
Yeah.
there has to be a like a game balance to it. It's like, okay, don't give them too much ammo, but not too like not less. You know, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
find that direct balance to what play, and that's just game testing and then being able to get it in there, and all
Right.
as well as difficulty. I mean, just playing a game and then just turning it on easy, and you could tell the difference between that and just putting on medium or hard, like how
Right.
scarce resources are in having, you know, the 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 thought process every time you go into a fight or a battle, like, oh shit, like I can't use that much. That's why,
Mm-hmm.
and to bring up games we always talk about, Last of Us is just finding and scrounging
Yep.
like that. In a sense, I don't have a problem with how like the lack of resources are,
Mm-hmm.
because in again, Metal Gear fan, always go into every game basically stealthing and trying to kill if that's like a possibility.
Yeah.
Like any type of game where, okay, I can go in here and just shoot everybody and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
especially when we were talking about Far Cry, there were plenty of times where there's a section, you know, in the village, just like you said, just trying to stealth kill people one by one so that you don't alarm people and then have everybody come after you. That's what I
Right.
enjoy doing. I love doing that in games, and that's, you know, something you got to kind of learn and balance out. But it is. It's like, okay, your weapons can break, but in this level, like, are you fucked if your weapons break? And then what do you do? Do you have to go
Yeah.
back to another save? Like, how does that work if you're not using your resources wisely? And then you could say that and turn it back on the player and say, Oh, well then, well, you as a player fucked up. Well, is it that, or is it the game design that's, not as forgiving?
Yeah, yeah, that's and that's so funny you say that because like I've gone into like already with Metro Exodus. I'm probably about, I'd say I'm like maybe two chapters away from finishing the actual game the way that I've been noticing it. And it the story itself is really kind of based on the seasons of the year. So it has, summer, winter, fall, and spring. And it's really you staying on the train. The train is like the train that you're using is called the Aurora, and the train itself is like your hub where everybody's at, the your people that you have along with you. It's like your family, and trekking through this environment, and the some of the levels that they give you are really huge, and you can explore. You can find little, like, you get rewarded for like looking around and like grabbing scraps and stuff like that. But it's one of those things that, like, playing the game, I keep thinking to myself, like, why can't the character talk? Why is it a point for this character not to say anything? Because if you remember, the theme of Far Cry 3 was that your character was not a brutal killer.
Hmm.
He was just a normal person that got put in a situation that he ended up having to use. He had to kill somebody in the very beginning, like the very beginning where
Hmm.
he goes and kills somebody for the first time. It like takes its toll on him. Like, he's just like, I can't believe I did that. But by that time, when you're like 4 or 5 hours into the game, you're mowing down people like no one's business. But I wish they would. I wish they would have played on that idea a lot more, where you every life you would take did something to you, where it made you different in such a way. But I guess it kind of does that because you are killing all these people, and you have no sense of like remorse for what you're doing. But I think they should have illustrated that a little bit more, where it could have played on your character psyche. And with Metro Exodus, you really don't have any, like, it's either creatures or thugs, or not thugs, but like, or thugs, they call them thugs, and then also like scavengers. So like those are like the deemed enemies. And some of the ones that I've recently got into is like some of the scavengers and the natives, um they will attack you, but you can choose to attack them if you want to or not. But it wasn't given to me in such a way where I can choose not to engage these people or not. Like, the game kind of forced me to fight in combat and take them down, because in my eyes, I'm like, all these people have resources that I need.
Hmm.
So there might be something in there, a special weapon or an attachment that I can be able to put onto my weapon, a new attachment or something like that. So now that I'm going through the game, I'm almost like, I would say like I'm maybe two chapters away from finishing it. There was something that happened by choices that I made, but it wasn't really my fault. Like, it was more of like the way the game designed and like made me, like, they made resources so scarce. That's the thing that I think of. So I don't want to take these enemies down, but I see the reward because I'm gonna win versus them, because I'm gonna get what they have. So I say that because I wish they would like play with these characters a lot more. Like, this character doesn't talk. And if you were to say stuff where you're just like, oh, I don't want to kill these people, these, like, remind the player, don't do what you're thinking about doing. Let it take its toll on the character. Let him, like, maybe refuse to use his weapon, and you have to like stealthily get around. Like, let him have that kind of moral conflict with himself. Like, I think that would be cool to do. And that's kind of what I'm wishing that they would have with these type of like first person shooters, because such a grand idea of what they're doing, like living in this world where after nuclear fallout, what happens to human beings, and like where they're always going to be brutal, they're always going to be thinking about themselves. It's like you have a crazy moral duality that's playing,
Hmm.
but your character doesn't have that because he's just one note. He's like, I need to do this because I need to protect my everybody else. He doesn't have any conflict with himself.
Yeah, and going back to balance, and it's not just first person shooters. Like there's some games that are even like third person that have an actual like people always talk about Uncharted and how like
Mm-hmm.
he's like, oh, I'm just Indiana Jones like kind of thing, but he's literally murdering hundreds
Right.
if not
Right.
thousands of random people over the
Right.
course of what, three game, well, four if you want to
Or
call,
it
well,
could be
four or
five
five,
if you think
Golden
of the
Abyss, right,
Gold
on
Abyss. Yeah,
Vita. So five over five games of him just straight up murder, and like he gets to a cutscene and like nothing happens. Like the pirate needed to kill me, so I just killed. So
right.
that's just definitely an aspect where I feel like the remorse portion isn't looked at enough. And granted,
Mm-hmm.
like some like it could be a different tastes and things like that. Like with me, like the brokering of or breakage of, of guns as time goes on, or things like that. Like the remorse option, it might not be that like sexy of a design addition to your game, but like it's something cool to be looking at. Is like,
Yeah,
all right, you straight up killed this dude. Like, how do you feel about that?
right.
Like, what, and by you doing that, what chain of events have you now triggered to keep going in this game? Like, that's something interesting to me that could be looked upon in games that haven't been uncovered yet. Which,
Right.
it could be something
Well,
to
I
it.
mean, like how The Last of Us, like they do actually like you feel like I mean you don't want to fight like you never want to fight anybody. You don't want to encounter anybody because you know there could be a potential that you're going to lose.
Hmm.
And that's what I really liked. Like they flipped it around where like you never were on the winning end on this on any part of like any kind of part of combat.
Hmm.
So it's like you always felt like you were just about to like you had everything stacked against you and you're just like maybe you can get through this. You never had you were never super powerful and you could be able to jump over people, you can grab them, you could throw them. You can't like, you know, get a stealth kill one character, pull
Hmm.
the knife from their holster and throw it at somebody else and like do a stealth kill.
Hmm.
You can't do all those things like they did in the Far Cry series. But I think they played with that idea in the third one. They even made a point to talk about it. Like your character is a regular person, and when he takes that first person's life, it's like it's gonna do something to him. But I think they had that idea in concept, but they didn't apply it into the game because throughout the game, that's all you're doing. You can't have remorse for anything you're doing because you have to take down these enemies. Like these enemies are all deemed to be like threats. And I think if you had enemies that were threats, maybe you can find a way to like negotiate with them where you don't
Yeah.
have to use your weapons all the time. Maybe you can sneak up against one of them and talk to them and be like, "Hey, let me talk to your leader."
Hmm.
And you go in and it's that kind of tense where you're holding the guy and you're negotiating. You're like, "Hey, you guys need to get off, if you can agree to get off this land, I won't kill this guy or I won't kill you guys, whatever." Like you can create a dynamic like that where you can make the enemies feel like they actually are 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 not just so like I'm the enemy, I'm the threat. You need to take me out.
Yeah, just
That's
a
I'm a
random.
one note character.
Yeah, and then in like Metal Gear Solid 5 or even some of the other ones where you can kind of use CQC and like threaten them, and they give you like
Right.
little small secrets, or maybe they just say like basically fuck you, I'm not telling you shit. And then
Right.
there's stuff like that where if we expand upon that idea, like you're saying, like maybe now you're negotiating with a boss, now you have one of his foot soldier, or not even a foot soldier, maybe someone higher up. But
Right.
as you're talking about Last of Us, like that's one of the very few games where I didn't mind weapons breaking,
Mhm.
because I felt like it was all right. This makes sense. Like in a horror game and more realistic, and a lot of the enemies there were fucking assholes. Besides
Yeah.
like the infected, but like these people that are out there just trying to kill you, but also
Mhm.
like just kill anybody just for resources, just being selfish. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter in that world. So you're trying to survive, and being that tense, and then you,
Mhm.
like you said, you don't have anything. You don't really have too much. You're not like a superhero or
Yeah.
someone that has like a minigun to just go through and just mow down people. I think there's
Mhm.
like that element as well where you're trying to balance or bridge that gap between those type of different elements.
Yeah, because I mean, you can always do that. You can always choose to go the stealth route. Like you can just knock the characters out if you wanted to and get information from them, and not have to kill every single person down. You can choose to be that way, or you can choose to be go the assault right. But I think if you did that way, there, if you're gonna go the way of like I'm gonna just kill everybody, there has to be something that's gonna be. You have to have just like a cause and effect. You have to have something happen because of what you're doing that's going to negatively affect you because what you're choosing to do. If you stealthily went down and like took down everybody without having to shoot any weapon or any bullets at anybody and you knocked them all out, what would that do for the character? What kind of ending would you have? Like if you can play the game solely like that, non-lethal, there are games that do that, but I wonder if it really does like matter in the story, or does the story always have a narrow path into like one ending conclusion?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know that.
and it's one of those things of, it's not necessarily like, okay, we're doing Call of Duty, so you can just randomly go ahead and just kill all these people, mow everybody down,
Yeah.
or make this. I think you can kind of do both if you wanted to, but like not a lot of people focus solely on that aspect in games where it's just a lot of remorse, or like a big decision actually, or
Mm-hmm.
killing somebody actually makes, cause and effect in that sense. So I think that's something that should be looked at more, as games go forward.
Yeah.
So. But it's
Yeah.
cool.
I
How,
think
how
that.
how long have you been playing it? How long is that game? You said you're almost done with it, right?
Uh, I would say I'm a good, oof, a good maybe 20, 20, 25 hours in.
Okay.
It's there's a lot of it is a fun game. I just recently in the later chapters, the chapters that I'm in, the chapter prior, I just got a crossbow, and
Oh shit.
because of the fact that that's you can be able to shoot the enemies and retrieve the arrow back.
Yeah.
That's a thing that you could be able to you can use over and over. But it's cool because you have to have like there's a pump element to it where you have to pump it up to like have some air so it can be able to the arrow will shoot faster and it's a little more deadlier. So you have to kind of pump it up, and I just realized that you could do that on accident, and it's cool because you have that element to it. But um I find myself always asking the question like, okay, there's a scene where you lose your backpack is basically all of your equipment. Like you can kind of do like what they do in the Last of Us, where you take the backpack down and you can craft items right then and there. Like
Hmm.
the game does that. Like you can do it on the fly at
Oh,
any
okay.
point.
So you don't have to actually go to like a workstation bench or something like
No,
that,
no,
right?
but you can actually, if you find an actual workbench, then that allows you to clean the weapons. You could be able to do a little bit. You can actually make your own bullets and stuff like that
That's
on
cool.
a workbench. But when you're out in the world, you have your backpack that can give you minimum resources, but you can be able to like you can add things to your stuff if you wanted to. Some of them you can add ammo. You can add more ammo, but it's more medicine and stuff like that you can be able to do. But you can do it on the fly. So there's a part where you lose all that, and there's a scene where you find the people that are responsible that took your backpack, and instead of the character saying something, and this drew me nuts, there's a part where the guy has your backpack right in front of you, right in front of him,
Hmm.
and the guy at this point has given up. Like he's like, "Hey, I surrender. Don't kill me." And you all instead of saying something, the character uses his right hand and his right index finger to point at his backpack
Hmm.
without saying anything. And I'm just like that part. You, the way that they made this character, he only has a voice whenever he's doing his narrations in the diaries each chapter. You never hear his voice in between that. Characters are speaking for you. And it drives me nuts that the character doesn't have an inner monologue, doesn't have an inner voice, doesn't have a voice of his own that he speaks out. Like instead of pointing at the bag, he should have said, "That's mine," or something like that. It'd be like, "You give me my stuff, or else I'm gonna make you pay." You could add all those things in there and have an inner conflict like with him while he's doing his stuff. You can have like a reminder or like something in his like a thought in his head where the other characters are talking about something that he's remembering, like, hey, remember, it's important for you to do this and this and this. I wish they would do stuff like that, but this character doesn't say anything, and it drives me nuts. And I don't know why it is that I want this character to speak so much, because if you listen to his diaries when he's talking, you know what kind of character he is. He's not just a one note type of guy. He's complex. He has some inner feelings about the reason why everyone's doing all this stuff, because he feels morally responsible because of what his actions in the beginning led them to here. So his actions have consequences, but he just doesn't say anything. I don't know why that drives me nuts so much, but I have to look past it because I'm almost done with the game, and I'm enjoying it because it's so much fun to like explore and find stuff, and then be able to like decide on how I want to fight these enemies, whether it be stealthy or aggressive. But most of the time you have to be aggressive. So I'm thinking back to like the second Metro, which is Metro Last Light.
Hmm.
I like that one a lot more because that one had more of a stealth element, and you were inside the metro stations a lot more, where you didn't go topside, you didn't go up that much,
Hmm.
and it was all about the actual the inner workings of the community. Like they had these like shops, they had, you can barter with some of these traders, these people that would have like weapons. You can trade bullets for upgrades and stuff like that. Like there was a whole dynamic with that, and I like that. And this one they kind of expanded, where it's just, you know, you're venturing out to find a new home. But I just feel like if the character had a voice of his own, I wish it would work. And for some reason, the second one, it didn't bother me as much that he doesn't. But the third one doesn't, and it just, I don't
Do you
know. It's
think
just
it's
weird.
because it's more action into this? Like I always feel like are are, are developers or publishers pushing the fact to go in and make it more, um, let's say like for the general public to sell more, as opposed to like putting too much. I don't know. It's one of those things where I always think about like just shooters in general, like people that
Hmm.
just want to go in, have fun, kill things, and then jump out and don't care about story. Like
Yeah.
I like story, but if it's a story that doesn't pertain to me in any aspect, then I don't really bother with it. But
Right.
and I would just have fun gameplay wise. But I always think about, are they are they doing it for a purpose so they can just like try to sell more, or is it just a thought they didn't come across? Because like you know, like the second game, was it more action heavy compared to the third? Like what are the differences there in that sense?
It did have action scenes, like more of like the creatures, the mutants that you would encounter, these big beasts that you would encounter, you got to take down. But I remember more of like stealth elements. I remember there was a part of one of the developers was talking about when the game was, when Last Light was just about to come out, or that it got announced, and then they were just talking about the ways that you can go into each level. And there was a scene where there's a guy that's like standing over this little fire pit that has a little pot that he's boiling some food with, that he's making food with, and he walks away from it. And there's a part where the developers like, you can shoot that pot of water, and the water will fall down on the fireplace, and the fire will go out, and the enemy will get alerted towards that and come towards it, and you could take him out. Those little things that they put in that game I like, because you could mess around with the environment. You could shoot out the lights if you wanted to, and they'd be like, what the hell's going on? And you could be able to like manipulate what's happening to your advantage. But the character didn't have a voice from what I remember. I don't think he talked.
Mhm.
I don't think he did. But I think it's just a major difference of third person stories. Third person characters have to talk because they have to animate the characters,
Yeah.
they have to show the character all the time, and they have a voice. They don't feel like they're just one dimensional. But first person shooters, you don't have to, because you don't ever see the character. You
Yeah.
only see their hands, their guns, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I feel like that perspective is okay. First person shooter. That means that's you playing. That you're
Right.
in this world. You're in that perspective, and that's it.
Hmm.
While third, it's more like it's their story. You're controlling them, but you're seeing how things end up going. And one of
Right.
the few, examples of like a third person and still not talking is Link from Legend of Zelda. which
Yeah.
it's still odd. I can't remember why they ended up still not having him talk other than high pitched yells and things like that. But I'm sure there was an article talked about. I just can't remember exactly what the reason was. But it's definitely something to think about when it comes to those types of things in games
Yeah.
where you kind of want more, and you would hope that they pushed out more. But yeah.
I mean, it's getting me to where I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying what's happening at this point. I'm enjoying the game a lot more when it's almost at the end point, because now your choices have actually had some actual real effect on everybody else. Whereas before you had to do everything you can to make sure the resources go back to that your home base, which is the train, which is the Aurora. So you have to like maintain that. There's like stuff that happens that derails the actual your process, and you have to your progress of where you're going, so you have to like stop and stuff like that. So I like what's happening now. I'm enjoying it more now than I ever did in the beginning. um but it's just, for some reason, I'm looking at that and I'm just like, man, I wish the character would say something more, because not he doesn't have to talk to himself. A
Hmm.
lot of times he's with somebody, like a companion that's walking along with him. The companion just talks the whole time.
Hmm.
Why can't the conversation happen while you're walking, and have
Hmm.
that dynamic conversation right then and there? Like, why does the character have to speak for you when they say, "Hey, are you okay? Yeah, you look fine. Okay, you'll be okay." Like, they're not like, why are you bothering asking questions to this character when they're not going to answer? Like,
Hmm.
don't mold it that way. Just mold it where, like, you just make him one dimensional, and don't give him a different. Don't give him a wife that he has to like make sure that she's safe, and that's your love. Like, that's they make a point to do that in the game. Like, your character, your wife character is like, that's the thing that's keeping you alive. That's keeping you motivated to do what you're doing, because you want her to have a future. So it's like, you introduce that, but now your character doesn't say anything in between unless it's the chapter iterations where he's doing the diary.
Yeah,
But I just don't understand why they don't have that in there.
it's
Uh,
peculiar to me, especially if you're trying to have a storyline like that, where he comes in and he has a wife. You would want something where he could say, well, I'm doing
mhm.
this for you, or just small parts, like
Right.
you finish up like killing like some enemies, and you're like, I'm doing this for you. Something it doesn't have to be that corny, but like
Hmm.
something where it kind of continues to push you, the player, and that character,
Yeah.
and you could see the motivations and what he's trying to do and where he's trying to go.
Yeah.
And man, it's when you think about stuff like that, it's definitely something where everyone can improve upon. It's definitely
Yeah.
something where we can go.
Yeah, because like they have so many instances where like you sit down and you're having this conversation with another person, and you're just looking at them while they're talking, and it's like, the character needs to say something instead of just being right there, being present. Why does he have to just be a camera showing off these great moments where you have, like, there's a couple moments where you look back at I look back at this and I'm just like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I feel like I'm engaged into these characters a lot more than I ever did. And it's just a simple little thing where you're just sitting down and everyone's talking, or everyone's around each other, and it feels like a real family. And it's like, I felt that and I was just like, man, I want this character to say something. But the only thing that you can say is, there's a guitar next to him. He grabs the guitar and he could play a song. And it's like,
Okay.
there's something that's missing, because the story is not so action packed where you can pick up and play and just go away and come back to it. It's not a casual game.
Hmm.
This game requires you to really be methodical in like each level. Like, you can choose to go stealthily. You can choose the day and night cycle on when you want to fight these enemies. So you can sleep in
Hmm.
the nighttime, so then you can be able to take them down stealthily, hopefully, or you can go in the daytime and just go aggressive. So you can pick and choose when you want to do that. They introduce that idea, so you can do that. It's just, I'm wanting the character to have those moments with other characters that are supposed to be important to him, and you don't hear it. And I think that's where I'm getting lost in that. And it's not because of the gameplay, not the story, but it's just the direction of this character not to not to have a voice of his own is like if they had that added in there, oh man, I'd be talking about this game, continuously because it's so cool on what they did.
And as you were talking about that, and I'm looking at my one of my posters in my bedroom. I have a cool little Emerald City Comic Con. There's a few like posters that I got from there
Hmm.
last year. But I'm looking at God of War right now, Kratos and his son
Yeah.
from the new God of War that came out. What was it last year? And like thinking about uh, where that series went from, just murdering enemies, gods, things like that.
Hmm.
People were saying Kratos was a piece of shit. Like, who cares? He's just randomly killing people.
Right.
And then moving over to, what the newest iteration was, where they spent time crafting, you know, Kratos into a person that you care about, someone that,
Hmm.
going into it, like, you can kill and murder all these, enemies, and that's not what the story is. It's really more the bond between, father and son. And I don't know if you've played that game at all, the newest one anyway.
No, I
Um,
haven't. It's on my list. I do want to play that game because I heard so many good things about that. Just because of that dynamic right there, that's what I liked.
yeah, and I'll let you borrow it if you have time. You want to play it, you can
Nice.
borrow it from me. But like just seeing just the just how it changed over time, moving from like David Jaffe's time of creating that over to like Corey Barlog, who like rode that ship into a place where everything about that game felt awesome, and then just being able to
Hmm.
like research and see him talk about it, and him pouring all of that time, energy, and life into this, and just making that story like amazing. It's so cool to see. So like
Yeah.
it's possible games have
Yeah.
done something
Yeah.
like that where they have that internal dialogue or that relationship where you start caring, or a decision that you make matters rather
Hmm.
than just randomly mowing down people. It can be there, it can get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really where I'm at with this one. I mean, Metro Exodus is a game that I've just been playing a lot more just because I want to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't finished Doom Legacy yet. I'm not finished with that yet. But that's the one that I just been kind of focusing on for now. But
Yeah.
from on my end, from what I've been playing, what have you been playing?
So yeah, so I finished Doom the last time we talked a few weeks ago. So after that, it was April 1st we did that podcast.
Yeah.
Um, so I finished that one. I was basically like two chapters away. Defeated the last boss. The last boss is pretty easy for the most
Mm-hmm.
part because they basically just throw in a bunch of like, here's all of your ammo, here's all of the weapons that you acquire. You have to obviously there's a lot more enemies that spawn. It can get difficult, but I was set up in a way where I had a few lives, or even if I died, I don't think I actually died because it kind of goes from uh, this area where it's like basically two levels where you can kind of bounce between them both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's just like a big, enormous demon that's like a huge boss where you just basically taking down his armor on his like arms or head or chest,
Mm-hmm.
and you basically just take those down by shooting at them. Once they're gone, they pretty much gets defeated into a second form. And you basically do the same thing, kind of rinse and repeat. But they put you in a second arena where you can get into it's a little bit more room to kind of do what you
Mm-hmm.
need to do. So
Yeah.
it got that game overall. I enjoyed. I loved. It got difficult and frustrating at times when
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like shown what you needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it was awesome. I enjoyed my time with that. So I finished
Okay.
that up. Um,
Can I
next,
can I ask can I ask something about that?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. So with on your Doom Fortress, you have that big mech suit, that big mechanical robot thing. Does that come into play in the game?
Other than it popping up a couple of times where you can um, you can actually use it in a level. Like it's forced upon you. It's like you go come across this thing and you get in this this little suit thing, and then you can kind of
Yeah.
pilot one of those flying demons. Um,
Okay.
you can do that, but I don't like
Yeah.
other than that. I don't remember you actually being able to pilot in any kind of mechanical suit of some sort. Um,
Okay, because I thought that could be a really cool thing to like, because you remember that demon in the very beginning that you see when you go on the when you go to Earth, and like Earth has been destroyed, and you see that big demon monster that's like walking down the city in the very beginning. Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think I.
It's like this huge demon right when you go down, right when you like come down and you see the city for the first time, and you see all these little hieroglyphs, and you see not hieroglyphs, but you see all these like these symbols, and you see like this like tentacles around like some of the buildings, but there's this huge demon that's like walking on your left hand side.
That might. I don't know if
He
it's
just
that
walks
huge
over.
demon. That could be the one that you defeat as like the last boss. I
Okay.
wonder if that's what you're talking about or referring to.
Yeah, because I thought like because you see that demon, and then later you start seeing these big mechs, like that one level where you see the mech like fighting that one on the ground. That when you first come into the level, you look over to the right, and it's like it looks like the machine has like pinned the one of the demons down, and it's like looks like it's killed it, and I'm just like, man, I wonder if you can get into this suit, and that's like the end boss, like that's who you fight in this big mech suit when you have all your weapons and you can still move, but you're in this big mech suit. I was like, oh, that's gonna be awesome. I can't wait.
There
I
is a
wish they would have something like that.
there is a spot where in the later level you kind of have to use like you get into a machine that shoots out like a it looks like a big like not kind of like a machine gun, but it's like a big laser kind of thing. So there's
Mm-hmm.
something like that, but that's strictly for getting from point A to point B to like during the level. The only other thing was that you kind of control the flying demon. A lot of stuff in the fortress was like you can unlock certain skins and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But as far as I remember, and I don't have the best memory, um, that didn't occur as far
Okay.
as getting like a big machine into it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I had fun with it. It was cool. Um, I enjoyed my time with it. I think I put in close to around 20 something hours for it, so it took me
Okay.
a little bit of time to kind of get through. Um,
Okay.
so the
Do you have any interest in Do you have any interest in playing the multiplayer?
I was gonna mention that I wasn't sure if I wanted to jump in or not with that. I might want to try it just to see like what they're kind of doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as soon as I got done with it, I was like, I need to get through and get to something else and like take it off the
Yeah.
list pretty much. But I don't I'm not you know I'm not completely against like trying to see what they did with the multiplayer at least,
Okay.
just to see what they changed and what they added.
Okay.
Um, the next thing that I got to was the Resident Evil 3. Uh, well, the remake came out, so what I
Mm-hmm.
ended up doing was I ended up busting out my PS3, and I
Nice.
remember buying the PS1 version of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
Okay.
So I ended up, since I never actually played the game, the original, I decided to go on a little adventure and play the original and then see how it compared to the remake. And
Oh,
man,
okay.
those games, man, like just like we were talking about, just the old NES kind of style games and just
Mm-hmm.
early PS1 games, it's hard to kind of get into at first, just because the controls are sometimes not like as modern as you want it to be and you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, like the music from that time period, it just remind like my favorite Resident Evil was two, um, overall. Besides, like the fourth game and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
two played a special, part in my life with that. Like, there was like one of the few times where you can just find a horror game where it just all the jump scares, all of that
Yeah.
was in there. It was so super fun.
Yeah.
But the third one, like, I never played at all, and it was interesting to see and compare both. I mean, there was like corny lines from the NPCs, different characters that you're with in the original. It's just like stupid stuff. Like the guy Carlos in there, he ended up saying stupid things like, "Oh, foxy ladies love me and love my accent," and things like. And then you just see him, the same character remade in the new one, being like, oh, "Okay, good. They like improved a lot on like what he says or what he does," and
Yeah.
it's cool to kind of place them both side by side, especially because I put in the original. I think I put in like about 10 hours, and then
Okay.
the remake I ended up putting about six or so. The second one is really short, um,
Hmm.
but I had a good time with it. Like it also starts out a lot differently. Like I won't spoil and won't go into a lot of what the beginning of the remake starts out with, but the way that they did it was super cool. Definitely starts out differently. Like the original PS1 game ends up basically you have a little short synopsis or storyline of what's actually happening, what's going on in Raccoon City, and
Hmm.
then you just start. There's no
Hmm.
like, oh, here's how you move, here's how you do stuff. It's just like, all right, you're here. There's a bunch of fire. Zombies are coming at you. Go. And I was like, oh shit, what the fuck?
Right.
Like it was
Right.
weird because like the controls were so like peculiar to me, and like realizing, okay, in order to do this, I have to hit R1, shoot there, move, and it's tank controls again. So I had to get used to that. But also the perspective and the way the camera is set up
Yeah.
was a little bit jarring at first to like kind of try to get into.
Hmm.
But the way that they kind of started the original and remake was really cool. So I mean, if you're a fan, definitely pick that up and kind of play around with it. Um, so the actual have you I think I remember asking you about playing any of the Resident Evil games, but did
Hmm.
you ever play the Resident Evil 2 remake?
I have not. I haven't done any of those the remakes yet. The most recent Resident Evil that I played was Biohazard. That one's like the
Mm-mm.
first person type where they're kind of taking it back to like it being slower. You know, you didn't have a lot of like ammunition. It like made a point to like kind of slow it down a little. But any of the remakes I haven't played. I've played the Resident Evils, the first, second, and third one. The biggest one that I remember the most was the second one. I remember playing
Mm-hmm.
that one the most, and I remember playing that, and it would just scare the hell out of me.
Yeah,
But yeah, I do remember that. I'm really itching to get back into those because I've seen the way that they've improved on the characters and like the way that your is the mechanics, is it true to the way that it was, or did they make it more like traditional now where you can move around,
they
or did they
definitely
change that?
they definitely made it more modern in a sense. I
Okay.
felt like with the remake, they kind of took, and I feel like that's why it's so short. They took the elements, at least the really good elements of the original, and kind of focused upon that.
Hmm.
As opposed to like prolonging it for just a fetch quest kind of thing, like get this do that, and then you can move on to
Yeah.
the thing. And it kind of does that here, but they kind of speed it up in a way where it doesn't take as much time. Like
Hmm.
I was watching like a speed run of it essentially, where someone you there's a trophy to beat it in 2 hours, which is possible.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I mean,
Okay.
it took me about six. Roughly, the average is about five to complete. And then if
Hmm.
you start unlocking and doing some of the stuff in there, oh, you'll definitely beat it in like 2 hours if you follow like the way that they do things.
Right.
Um, but I enjoyed it a lot. There was frustrating times with the original just because of controls, but it's like riding a bike. You get used to it over time. The lack. I played it on easy mode because there's basically two options on
Hmm.
the original. It's just easy and then just like hard. And I think it unlocks like a nemesis mode or some sort, which I didn't get to. But
Okay.
the remake has like a point system, which I pretty much lucked out because there's plenty of times where I felt like there might be something popping up soon where I might need more ammo. So I would make like a separate save just in case,
Hmm.
you know, I died or it didn't work out, so I can go back and kind of try to figure out if there's any other like ammo or anything like that. And
Yeah.
then after I completed it, I looked up a way to, because you can get unlimited ammo and things like that in these types of games. And so I
Hmm.
was looking into it. And for some reason, I lucked out where two spots where I did separate saves on was a place to kind of like farm points.
Hmm.
So you can actually unlock and spend those points to unlock like unlimited rocket launcher, unlimited ammo for a handgun. So I didn't have to go back and play to get to those points again, which
Okay.
was nice. But I ended up spending a little bit of time like farming stuff so I can get the unlimited grenade launcher.
Yeah.
So when I went back in, I
Of
actually
course.
played the remake twice. I beat it twice, and after when I started the second save, dude, it was fun. I was just going through,
Yeah.
just killing everything with the unlimited rocket launcher. I didn't need any other weapon. Just carried what I needed to carry, and basically just destroyed anything that I could. So
Right.
it was fun there.
Do you find that the most recent one, the Resident Evil 3, do you find the remake of that one, do you feel like that one is worth the actual cost?
So I kind of debated on this because when I purchased it, and I knew going in, I'm like, this is only going to be like 5 or 6 hours.
Hmm.
I kind of was two ways about it. I felt like it was worth it in my time because I felt like I got a little bit more out of it, especially since I replayed it. And so I would say maybe with everything that I did, I got closer to like maybe 10 hours after like doing some farming and things like that in certain levels to like kill as many zombies as I could to get, unlock these points, to use those points to, unlock these weapons and things like that. I
Right.
don't. I had a good time with it. I wouldn't mind spending it again. I had fun, and the way that they did it. I don't know if I could recommend it to people that if they're like on a budget or if they're like, I don't buy that many games. I don't know if I would necessarily say yes,
Right.
but I would say, and me personally, I thought the time that I put in was worth the cost. Especially when I kind of went playing the remake or playing the original and then playing the remake, and then that kind of combined together. I felt like
Yeah.
it was one total experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially the way that you did it or the way that I did it.
Do you think if they were to include the original with the remake, do you think that would have solidified that cost right then and there? Like you've been like, well, you're getting the original game and you're getting the remake
I think
for that
so.
same cost of $60.
I feel like if they did that, added that, because they also added the multiplayer aspect for it. They're doing that. I think they're doing the beta for that online Resident Evil thing, which I
Didn't
did.
they do? Didn't they do that with like that? It was an online Raccoon City or something like that.
It was like on PS2. It was like Resident Evil on
Yeah,
Outbreak or something like that. I can't remember the
something like
title,
that. Yeah.
but I remember that being a thing. I think it was on PS2 originally.
Hmm.
But they're doing something similar to that, but also making it almost like a Left 4 Dead twist. So,
Okay.
excuse me, you have I think it's like 3 or 4 characters, and then you also have like your survivors, and then you also have someone who is basically controlling rooms and zombies and things like that. So you can actually play as either a survivor or that guy that is locking doors, or
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, that
Okay.
or that's summoning zombies at that specific time in the exact moment. You can also plant traps for people, and there's
Huh.
also, and I haven't played it yet. This is just me like remembering what I read, but there's different types of survivors that are good at, you know, taking apart traps or doing this or doing that. So they have like everyone has their own kind of role to kind of play,
Hmm.
and and then you're also like a person that controls the whole thing to see if you can kind of defeat the survivors by picking and choosing when you can do things, or sending out enemies to them and see if they can survive. Or if, let's say, someone separates from the group, they can kind of like lock a door behind them, be like, oh shit, and then send zombies so they can kind of separate people. And it's a cool little idea that they, try to bring back from the old days, definitely. So
Huh.
they added that
Yeah.
package in there. I think if they threw
Okay.
on the original PS1 game, then I would say hell yeah, let's go, because that whole thing works together.
Yeah, you don't really see stuff like that where it's being packaged in like that, where you have that. The only thing that I can think of was if you remember that game, Chronicles of Riddick,
Hmm.
Dark Athena.
Original Xbox.
Yeah, did you ever play that? Well, the first one was
Butcher's
Escape
Bay.
from Butcher Bay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember my friend playing that, and I watched him play it, but I didn't have the original Xbox.
yeah. So that one was on the original, and then when Dark Athena came out, they made where that one's the continuation of that game. But what they did was Starbreeze, the developers that actually did that game, they packaged the first Butcher Bay game and kind of remade it and kind of like up the graphics so it
Mm.
can work on the 360 version.
Hmm.
And then they also gave you the newest game, which you don't see a lot. You don't see a lot of gaming companies that do that, where like especially like a remake or something like that or a continuation, they never include that first game.
Yeah, they
So
usually
like
separate it unless it's like a budget thing where they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, get the Uncharted collection," because it's been like
right.
5 years, so that makes sense. But yeah, you're right. You don't really see that too often.
No, and it was cool too because like I didn't play the Butcher Bay version, the first one, so I got to play that one before I even played Dark Athena, and I was hooked. Like that game is so good. The stealth mechanics, the melee combat that they do in that, man, it's crazy good. And then Dark Athena just expands on that, and it's so cool. It's like one of the best like Riddick games that I've ever played was Dark Athena because it's a lot of stealth melee. You're using those weapons, those dagger things that he has, those like kind of size, but like whatever things that he has, those
Oh
daggers.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dude, it's so cool, man. But I never saw anything like that. And I think if they were to do that, because it's is it still by Capcom, or did they give it out to like a third party company to like do the remake, kind of like what they do with like Blue Point, where they
Oh, Blue
do
Point
uh
does amazing shit, man.
they do all those remakes like they did
Yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus.
As far as I'm aware, it's Capcom doing it.
Okay.
And I heard rumors recently that they're also remaking four, which I don't know why, because they ended up, that was a GameCube game, and I forget one of the one of the guys that was making that was like, it's never going to come to any platform, or I'll chainsaw my head off, because that was like one of the enemies in that game. And
Yes. Yeah.
funny part of that, it ended up being on the PS2 years later, which was funny. But they did that. They put it on PS2, and I bought a PS4 version remaster like
Hmm.
a couple years back. So I mean, they didn't really, you know, remake the game. They upped the graphics and things like that. But
Right.
and now there's rumors that they're gonna come out with a Resident Evil 4 remake next year. Um, but yeah, I believe it was Capcom originally. I'm actually looking forward to Blue Point making something else, because they were very cryptic last year, I think it was, when they were talking about making their next game. And I'm really
Hmm.
hoping that they're remaking like Metal Gear Solid or two or whatever, because I
Mm.
really want like a collection of some sort that, because they did, I think they did Zone of the Enders for Kojima as well.
Okay.
But they do awesome work. Like, a lot. What was it? Eco they did, right?
They didn't do that one. They did Shadow of the Colossus.
Shadow of the Colossus. Okay,
Um,
that's the one.
that's the they. I wish they would do a remake of that one. Like I wish they would touch that because it's weird because the Shadow of the Colossus gets over. Well, I mean, no pun intended, but it gets shadowed over Eco because that game is very simple. It's not. There's not a lot of like things that you. I guess maybe it wasn't as popular. I guess I don't know,
Mhm.
but I think because of the love that they have for Shadow of the Colossus, I think they could have easily take that game and bundled them both together and
Mhm.
put it all together for you. So it's like I would love to see something like that, man. I'd be first in line to be able to get something like that or order it and just wait for it to come to me. Whatever, how things are going to be distributed now because things are kind of weird where it seems like it's all online going to be now. Like
Mhm.
even like movie theaters are like you don't know what's happening. They're kind of experimenting with like doing it where you can pay $20 to like get movies to rent them for like a couple. You get it for like 72 hours where you can
Mm.
watch it.
Mhm.
So there's kind of experimenting with that because obviously everything's shut down continuously
Right.
until further notice. But it's gonna be interesting on what's gonna happen because like games are being affected, but it's like what's gonna happen? Like, is it gonna be fueled by an online service now? Like, how is that gonna work?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially with the infrastructure that we have in the United States. Like, so, at some portions of the U.S., it's, you know, easier to get broadband as opposed to like the middle of America. So it's hard
Right,
to even now where we would think, oh, well, I just got to download it. But not a lot of people still have access to that. Where they have
right,
satellite internet or what have you, it takes forever to download stuff. So they still need physical copies.
right.
Um, but yeah, it's eventually moving to that area, especially how many digital copies of games that got sold during the start of this shelter in place and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a factor when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. So do you think? Do you? I mean, because of the remakes, do you think that you're on board for the next ones that are coming out? Like, cause do you think they'll stop at four, or do you think they're gonna have the balls to do five?
I mean, I don't think they'll get to five. I
You
feel
think they'll
like
stop at four?
I think they'll stop at four because that's their tried and true.
Mm-hmm.
Although again, I could be wrong only because if they continuously see the sales like we talked about earlier in the podcast,
We
is
are talking
if
about Konami. I mean, we're talking about Capcom. I'm sorry.
yeah. So I mean, if they see the sales and increasing and the interest of another
Yeah,
one, then they'll
yeah.
definitely do another one. But I feel like they'll stop at four and they're well, I mean, they're focusing on what Resident Evil 8 now. So I
Right.
feel like there's going to be a breaking point where maybe after four they'll start looking at other stuff to do. But I'm kind of getting into horror right now. Like that's one of those things where playing the original,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like I'm kind of itching to like play more horror games.
Yeah, it's a tough one to be able. Some games you could be able to find that are really, really good at like atmospheric and like environmental sound lighting. It's tough to be able to find games like that, but when you do, it's like Resident Evil really scratches that itch of like getting scared and like you're nervous on what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and another one which I didn't actually get into. Um, Another one made by Konami was Silent Hill. Like I never got into that series. I know my cousins really loved and enjoyed those, but that's
Yeah,
another one
Silent Hill's fun.
might want to look into. But the one I'm actually playing with right now is Dead Space.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so I popped that
Okay.
in, dusted off my PS3, and um, playing. I didn't play that long. I only played like 45 minutes to like an hour of it, so I'm like very
Mhm.
early in. I don't like I almost want to reset because I put it on easy just so I can get through the game. Because again,
Mhm.
I'm typically the type of gamer where I'm like, I'm putting it on the medium. I'm not going to do hard. I'm not going to do too easy. I can,
Right.
do my best and get through this. And then as I'm playing on easy mode, I'm like, I feel like they're giving me too much ammo. I feel like they're giving me too much,
Mhm.
too many of the health packs. And like
Yeah.
we were talking about earlier, the balance of things in game design. Like I almost want to restart and be like, let's try to do medium and see how it goes because it's not as scary now. I feel like those
Yeah, cuz it's
creep.
a little too easy.
Yeah, because and again, I played through the beginning of the same spot that I started and stopped at like years ago with this game. Um, I am in the same spot, so I know what pop scares are there, what things are
Mhm.
happening. But I want to see. Maybe I'll restart it and just put it on medium, which I normally do. I don't know why I just
Mhm.
did that. I don't know, just to get through the game. But I started playing that, but I forgot how cool like the UI and everything was. Like
Mhm.
the health on the spine, so
Yep.
where your health is without being obtrusive in a corner of some sort. Then you
Yep.
have like the different pop-ups that you have where someone's talking to you and there's like a video
Yep.
screen kind of like hologrammed
Mhm.
there. A lot of cool little design elements that we don't see too often anymore in
No.
modern games. They don't do that too often. I appreciate that. That was really cool to kind of start like, oh yeah, that's right. They did focus on that, made a big
Mm-hmm.
point of it. So that was really cool to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, that's by Visceral Games. They or they didn't call them Visceral. It was just Visceral,
Hmm.
and I remember distinctly listening to either the lead designer or the guy that was like maybe the game dev- one of the he was someone that was that was basically the voice of or the head of what was happening with this game, and like he was giving out promotion out interviews and stuff like that, which coincidentally he actually moved into with Call of Duty. They end up Visceral started going into this is before they moved into like their own development team to start doing Call of Duty,
Mm.
which became Sledgehammer Games, I believe. I
Oh,
believe that's the
cause
name.
yeah, cause they did like the World War II like series,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they went
So
back and forth, right?
they migrated over. So Visceral started on with well I don't know if they started this as their first game, but I got the attention on that because I remember seeing that guy uh, in an interview, and that's what really kind of sparked my interest into like, hey, maybe I can start thinking of an idea of like wanting to get into games because this guy, he was like maybe at the time he might have been like 45 years old, and you don't see a lot of you don't see a lot of like maybe people that are behind the scenes that are developing these games.
Hmm.
Typically you would see them to be a little younger, and that was the first time I ever saw somebody that's a little older, but he's talking about this game and like the environment and what you're going to do and why they made a point to keep you in the actual game where even your menu HUD will pop up and it's a hologram image that will always keep you in the game, so you always feel you're never pushing the pause button because you're constantly stayed in the game on purpose. Like even tracking yourself on the map when you don't know where you're going, that little waypoint that's on your palm
Yeah.
that he shoots down and it like gives you a direction of where you're going. Brilliant little idea for that little instead of an arrow, instead of a compass or instead of like a waypoint, it's a little thing that you see for a split second and it guides you back to where you're going.
Yeah, it's small stuff like that where again you don't think about until
Mm-hmm.
someone sits there and comes up with whether it's listening to other developers or whether it's listening to the audience of like, man, I just wish they did that, or if he just came up with it himself, I don't know, but like
Mm-hmm.
just being able to kind of find a design problem and kind of you know fixing it, or even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not a design problem, but you want to see something unique and something that no one really has done before, or if they did it,
Yeah.
but you can improve upon it. It's always so cool to like see something different
Mm-hmm.
with that shit. But I'm having a good time with that, so
Good.
I'm gonna get through. I know 1 and 2 Dead Space is good, and the third
Mm-hmm.
one's more becomes like more of an action instead of like a
They
horror
give you a
type
cover mechanic,
cover mechanic. Okay.
so that tells you right then and there that's
Mm.
it's not. It didn't become what it was. It became more action driven.
Mhm.
So the second one, they kind of expand on the character or what happens in the events of after the first one. It kind of plays around with that, and that's one of the things that I. Speaking of what we're talking about, like having the our your protagonist not speak,
Mhm.
uh, he Isaac, your character doesn't speak at all,
That's what I was gonna
and
bring up.
for some reason, it works.
Yep.
It works because you hear him breathe.
Mhm.
You feel like you're a part of that, like you're tense. Like the brilliant thing about that is that your gun can pivot from one way to another, horizontal or vertically, to dismember the enemies because you can't just shoot them. Because if you do that, they'll fall to the ground and like bugs will come out of them, and then now you have a bigger problem. So you have to like shoot the limbs first. Let this take those out first, and then go for the head.
And that was the
Like
cool thing about it is, and it
yeah.
kind of again moving from the old like PS1 days to maybe a different control scheme that they had.
Mm-hmm.
This game took me a little bit to kind of get used to because the first two, R L1 and R1 are the aim and shoot, and then
Yeah.
the back buttons. So the L2 is to run when you hold it, and the R2 is to change from vertical to horizontal with your gun to, like, like they
Yeah.
were saying, to chop off the limb. So I was like,
Yeah.
I was always going back, like, because again, our brains are designed to like just go back what we're familiar. But
Mm-hmm.
I assumed the back buttons were going to be the ones to like aim and shoot, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
they're
they're not.
moved to the front. So it kind of took me a second to kind of get used to, and that made it a little bit more frightening in a sense at times, because I had to frantically remember, oh damn, here's the shoot. Oh wait, no, that's just moving. There's like your
Yeah.
gun slicer horizontally. I'm like, damn it. All right, so I gotta back up.
Yeah.
Gotta do this. So it made a little like hesitation at times with that stuff. Made it a
Yeah.
little bit more suspenseful.
Yeah, the environments of the game, just you being in this huge ship, it reminds me of that older movie Event Horizon with Lawrence Fishburne and
Mm.
the guy from Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park, the
Hmm.
guy Sam Neill, I
Yeah.
think his name Sam Neill. Uh, it reminds me of that because it's so claustrophobic in that game, and you so many times you would just hear your footsteps, and then all of a sudden you'd hear some noise around you. You're like, what the hell is that?
Yep.
Or you'd see some light from these, like a fan or something, and you look up, and then all of a sudden something would like run by, and you just catch a shadow of it. You're like, what the hell was that? And it was cool because they did that. And when you step out it in in space, and your boots are attached onto the actual hull of the ship,
Hmm.
and you're on top of it, and you're like on the roof, it's awesome because they take out the sound, and that fucks with you because
Oh,
you're so used to the sound, and when they take that away from you, now you don't hear the enemies at all, and you're relying on you having to look around, and it totally throws you off.
oh
You're
man.
so used to hearing it, and they take it away from you, and you're just like, oh shit, what the hell's happening? I don't know where I don't know why I'm getting hit.
Yeah, your
It's so
senses are
cool.
take one of your senses that you're used to relying on are
Yeah.
taken away. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool that they did that. That's cool.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I like that you're what made you want to uh get into go back and actually play Dead Space? Was it just because it's that horror type of game, or is it something that you just wanted to finish?
I mean, that was part of it, but it was also just that. It was on my backlog. I remember playing a little bit of it and enjoying it, and I now I'm like I feel like I'm on a kick
Yeah.
of playing some horror games. But so I was looking at some other ones that I want to get into, but I'm not sure what direction I want to go into yet after Dead Space. But clearly have a lot of backlog to get to. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's pretty cool. I did want to change over to another game that I've been playing.
Okay.
However, we might want to pause real quick.
Alrighty. Well, we've been talking so much that we end up having to take a little break of our own, just because once again it's going to be probably popping into almost 2 hours.
It's getting into me, man. I was
It's
drinking some beer, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go.
well, now you just got me an excuse to be able to get mine, and I have a Sapporo that I got like a week ago, and because I heard that sound, I was like, you know what? He's gonna have one. I'm gonna have one.
It's good
Why not?
times, man. Good times.
Cheers, man.
And cheers, man. So another game that I got, they Target had like a buy two get one free.
Yeah.
One of them, that's why I ended up getting Resident Evil Remake. I got that, and then I bought a game for my girl as well. But I got Star Wars.
Okay.
So that game, I had fun, man. That game is really cool. They made you feel awesome when you first start out. Like you start out in this area where it's after Order 66, where that's where they just killed all the Jedi. It took them
Yes.
all the.
Yes.
It's after the Clone Wars, so all the clones decided to, you know, initiate that and murder all the Jedi. So it's after all that. It's also, I think, before a little bit of Rogue One, because in the trailer, Saw Gerrera is in there,
Okay.
So it's all kind of in that kind of time period. But when you start out, you're basically like a welder. You're just taking apart like ships and things like that.
Mhm.
And essentially, what ends up happening is you and your friend go off um, doing a job. Trying to get up to a spot where the boss is like, "Oh, we need this taken down, or we need this connected, or something like that." And you go up,
Mhm.
you do it. They kind of teach you how to like traverse the environment, and they kind of teach you some things as you go through,
Right.
sort of like a tutorial. But essentially, what ends up happening is one of your friends ends up like falling off, and you kind of use your force powers to kind of stop them, or help them out. And there was like a little
Mhm.
camera to kind of like that's just floating around, like watching everything. And that's when the friend realized that he's a Jedi, and then everyone else ended up noticing, and then bringing down, the Empire to find out who this Jedi is
Oh
and
wow.
where he
Okay.
is. So they kind of come and find you afterwards. So
Okay.
then your friend ends up kind of stepping in, not like betraying or anything, just stepping in, and because they're like lining you up and basically saying
Mhm.
like everyone's gonna die here unless someone gives this dude up. We don't know who it is, but someone's here. Someone is gonna die if no one speaks up. So your friend kind of speaks up, but is telling a story, and then he ends up dying. Your main character freaks out, and the person that ends up doing it is they call her like the second sister, I think it is. So
Okay.
it's just completely different that they made up for this game, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a super Star Wars nerd at all.
I don't know.
I have no idea. Like I
I
I watch
I
the
remember
movies, but that's about it.
yeah, I remember just seeing in the trailer that they call it the Inquisitor or something like that.
Hmm.
That's all
Yeah,
I remember hearing.
that's what they call her. So that ends up happening. Then you're kind of on the run. She tries to track you down. There's somebody that ends up showing up. Deborah Wilson from Mad TV plays
Oh yeah.
this character,
Huh.
so pretty
Okay.
cool. She shows up, picks you up, and you kind of go from there. Playing this game, man, it's so cool seeing like the different environments. There's not a lot of like worlds. I think there's like 4 or 5 max. It
Mhm.
did take me about 20 something hours to get through the entire
Okay.
game, but actually playing through um, made you feel like a badass. Like the controls at times were, it took a little bit to get used to, but it did feel awesome once you parried the right way, or attacked
Right.
the right way, or anticipated, the enemy's movement. Because at first you don't really have shit. It reminded me
Mhm.
more of like Metroid in a sense,
Mhm.
because you would start on this world, and there's spots where you can't get to, but you'll be able to get to later once you acquire the force powers that you need, or the specific lightsaber, or something like that.
Right. Right.
So in that sense, it was really really unique and interesting to me to kind of add that into it. And even though it was only like 4 or 5 worlds, the worlds were big.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't
Mhm.
very linear. It wasn't like super straightforward. There were spots where I constantly came across where like I could go this way, or I can try to see what's down here and seeing what the hell this is. Because there's times where you can go into a cave, or you can go underwater and do this thing, or find this thing, or do that. And it kind of made it more fun and more adventurous to
Mhm.
kind of look and get those types of things. Like there's little like boxes where if you unlock your little droid thing, goes in and finds like a customizable addition to your lightsaber, so you can actually
Hmm.
go into a workstation and design your own lightsaber, which was super badass. Like it
Oh,
was like,
that's cool.
oh, I can change the handle, I can change this, I can change. At first, you can only change the light, the color of the
Yeah.
lightsaber to be like I think it was green and blue, and that's it. And then later on, which was really cool, in the game, lately in the game, you can actually change it to I think it was like 7 or 8 different colors. Like you can actually choose any of these crystals, and that could be your
Okay.
permanent lightsaber color if you wanted to. But just like traversing through the game, it just made you feel like a badass. Another thing that was an element that they added to the game that reminded me of a prior game was they made this almost like Bloodborne.
Hmm. Okay.
So what they did was there are save points. It's like a little circle that you can see and save your progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you saved your progress, your enemies that you defeated before prior will now respawn. So all the enemies that you killed prior to that save point will respawn if you need to trek back or go through or do this.
Oh, okay.
And another thing they added, kind of Bloodborne esque, is you can do that, but if you die, you'll get back to sent back to the same save point that you were at, but
Mm-hmm.
also you lose your experience points.
So it makes you have to go back and get that.
Yeah, so it or like even like a WoW situation. So if you defeat or as long as you just hit that enemy that killed you, then you get your experience back. Now
Okay.
it doesn't take away like your skill points. Your skill points are still there. They have like a skill tree where you can spend your skill points on different new actions, like you can add health, you can add more force meter, you can get new fighting techniques that you can add. It doesn't take away that, but it does take away the experience. So if you're almost at a full meter and like an enemy killed you, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, fuck, I lost all of that. I have to go back and get that dude and at least hit him once to get back all of your experience and all your health. So it was definitely
Okay.
something cool that they added to combine into this game. So they added some Metroid feelings. They added some Bloodborne kind of stuff. It was cool seeing that kind of thing. Um, but it ultimately made you feel like a fucking Jedi. Once things happen, using the Force to push away enemies or bring them closer or to block things with your lightsaber, which you can unlock. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if you just start running and someone's shooting at you, it automatically blocks. So it's if you just hold the left thumbstick and you go for a run and they're shooting at you, nothing's going to hit you. It makes you feel like a badass,
Okay.
which I enjoyed a lot with it. There's like a little spot. It's like a little, almost like Mass Effect, where you're in your ship and you have like a little hub where you get to choose what planet to kind of go to.
Mm-hmm.
So they added things like that from there too. And when you go into like the different planets, like a lot of them feel very unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you have a snow world, you have, you know, kind of like a mechanical area, you have like a grassy world kind of thing, but they feel like planets should feel. If like they did
Yeah.
a very good job with kind of taking those styles and those mechanical feelings,
Mm-hmm.
sci-fi futuristic, but also being grounded. They do a very good job of making you feel like you're in Star Wars.
Okay.
So I enjoyed a lot of that. And your character, your little droid is called BD1.
Yeah.
So it's cool that later down the line he can learn stuff where, let's say there's one of the droids from Rogue One, the little, I forget what they called it, but it's just basically a big robot. If you kill it down enough with its life meter, you can send your BD1 to go over and take control over it. So then now it fights for you. So now it would,
Oh, cool.
yeah, it
Okay.
was really cool, like seeing him, like the little robot now fighting your like stormtroopers and things like that.
Right.
Um, so everything was like very satisfying in that sense. And the cool thing about it is you do end up getting a dual lightsaber.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was fucking badass as shit. So getting
Okay.
that was cool, and it added again a different mechanic to the game where you can kind of like it just there was a an enemy in the first planet that you come across, and he's super hard to
Hmm.
defeat. And then I remember coming back to that original planet just to see what I can unlock, see what secrets I can open up because of the new skills I learned, and then coming across him.
Yeah.
And while it was still difficult, I had to switch over to the dual saber in order to make that fight a lot easier. So just
Huh.
showing and then just adding those types of things in this game were very very cool to
That sounds interesting that they even. So when you're on the actual planet, are you automatically in combat mode, or is there? Do you have scenes where like you're walking around like the seedy underbelly of these worlds?
So all of this is not like interactive with a lot of NPCs at all. You're pretty much
Uh huh.
just your NPCs are like your immediate characters that are on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is basically they set you off. You get off the ship. You enter into an open world in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk through, and they're just little enemies, whether it's you know creatures or whether it's stormtroopers or whether there's things like that that pop up, but there's
Mm-hmm.
not like, oh, you're walking through this alleyway and there's a bunch of NPCs you can talk to, kind of like akin to like a Mass Effect. It's not like that. It's not as in
Okay.
depth as that. It's more of like pick a world, drop down, you're in an open environment, you can go through, climb walls, do double jumps when you eventually get that skill.
Mm-hmm.
You can get through, climb on ropes and get through and traverse, and it makes it more of an adventure as opposed to more of an RPG.
Right. So it kind of makes you have to once you learn something, you can go back and explore. And every time you do that, you find other parts of the level that you weren't able to get into. You can be able to do. You can
Ex-
be able to get into.
exactly, and that's the part that I
Okay.
really liked, which was gaining new skill. I'm like, oh shit, okay, now I can pull stuff. All right, I can go back to the first planet and pull this over so I can jump on that and then unlock that. That gives me, I don't know, a skin to my lightsaber, or oh, that
Right.
gives me, something that I can add to my ship and make it look cool, or it's just small stuff like that that they added. What I found like interesting to go back to old planets and play.
Okay. Do you find that the combat is satisfying enough for you to want to continue playing the game once you finish it, or is it satisfying to go through the run once and wherever the story takes you to whatever you're obviously you're probably taking maybe taking down the empire, I guess, maybe, or taking down the inquisitor and whatever your end boss is. Does it make you is the replay value allowing you to go back, or are you doing that before you even finish the actual game itself on your first run?
To me, I felt like on my first run, I got pretty much everything that I could get without having to go back, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my first run through, I think there's probably only maybe three skills or four skills that I didn't get in my like skill tree that I
Okay.
haven't unlocked, which the ones that I haven't picked aren't really that substantial for me to go back and like kill some more enemies. And meanwhile, it's probably not going to be that hard to go back for like maybe an hour and a half to try to get those skills. But to me, it
Right.
doesn't add any value to kind of go back. I feel like as long as you're kind of uh, a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more curious about not just going straight forward, but being able to kind of go off on a small path. It's not even like you're going that far off the path to find, some things or gain some experience, and just being curious about it. I feel like you'd get
Mm-hmm.
most of everything you need from one run of the game. Now,
Okay.
I won't go into like spoilers to the end of the game. I kind of want to get to also now all the stuff that I said was really cool, but the one thing that I kept noticing as I played longer and longer in the game
Mm-hmm.
is that one, the load times can be fairly long, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like whatever. But the biggest thing that I noticed that kind of took me out of the experience was a lot of pop-ins,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't
Okay.
like it's not like far off distance pop-ins that you would notice from, like, let's say like a Skyrim or an open world game. It was pop-ins of like a cutscene happening, and like the characters would immediately like not be there and just show up, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening?
Huh.
Or there was an instance where I came across one of the enemies, um, where and this happens not very often, but again takes me out of the experience where it freezes. Like the
Hmm.
game froze for. I was fighting a character who had like a lightsaber, like a dual lightsaber,
Okay.
and he was coming after me, and then I turned, and it was no cutscene. There was no like, there was nothing in the lead up. It wasn't like a big mini boss or anything like that. It was just a normal character, and I came across, and then it froze for like 30 seconds. I literally
Huh.
had time to grab my phone and take a 12-second video of it not like doing anything. And I remember showing my
Before it resumed.
before it resumed, like I was showing my fiance, I'm like, look, this is what's happening right now. Like there's nothing going on. It's just frozen in place, and then it pops in, and I'm like, damn, when did this game come out? Like it came out in the fall, right? Like by
Right.
now, I would
Right.
assume they patched out this type of stuff, but that's one of the few things that took me out of the experience where not just in cutscenes, but like stuff like that, where I'm like, I'm literally fighting somebody, and it's just like, oh yeah, that dude just popped in. I'm like, wait, what? There was a part where that I saw enemies in front of me, and they were
Mm-hmm.
frozen, and I started beating them up, and they had no physical reaction until they
Yeah.
died, and then they're like, oh, they used the death animation, and then it fell, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then it kicked in, and then all the other ones started moving. I'm like, what is happening? I mean, again, I took advantage of the situation, but
Right.
it kind of threw me off. And then I started thinking about it because I know it's from EA, right?
Yeah.
And I know the Frostbite engine gave so many developers in EA a lot of difficulty to work on, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield or this or that. That people have complained for years about the engine needing to be redone, reworked, or just completely being used by something else. But I was
Mm-hmm.
shocked to see that they used Unreal,
Huh.
and I
Okay.
was kind of like, what? This shouldn't. I mean, this shouldn't happen. I mean, it can happen, but like
Right.
if you have an engine that's been used for so long, for so many years, and all of a sudden now like this shit happens, like what's going on? Like you can't fall back and say, well, we took so long to get this game out because our Frostbite engine was shit or whatever. It's difficult to develop, but no, it was Unreal. So I'm like, what the hell? Like I don't know. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the experience that I had with it, but there were so small things. It definitely took me out from being like an ultimate badass Jedi to like, what the fuck? Why is this happening?
Did it happen enough? Obviously, it happened enough for you to notice, but I mean, did it happen in like key moments when you were like when you had to be 100%, focused on what you were doing, or
No,
was it like in between while you were doing something else?
and a lot of it was during the small times. It was like just a random enemy that I had to defeat.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like a lot of, but again, small cutscenes that occurred where it did pop up, and I clearly noticed because you're not moving, you're not fighting, you're not doing anything, so you definitely notice that type of stuff. But
Right. Right.
yeah, so I would say like mostly during like small battles like that, but sometimes it would occur in cutscenes, and I'm like, why the fuck? Like, why is this happening right now? But it was so weird and jarring to witness and see that playing the game. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of probably the reason why like when you have a game like that where you can be able to go back and forth without any kind of load in between, you could probably have things where characters or all the enemy characters won't actually react to what you're doing because they haven't been activated yet because of like a something an action that you did by a couple scenes before. So like something you didn't do completely and the program of the actual game wasn't completed.
mhm.
That's why that cycle didn't start. So um, That happens more often than you think, but enough for you to notice is typically a bug that can be fixed, but it might have been something that was just a continuous thing that they couldn't fix, and especially if you see it in the cutscenes itself are always have their own individual way of actually being able to like
Hmm.
process everything. So it's like another version within the game itself because they have to render all of these characters in a higher resolution than they do in the game. So your focal point is on there, so they have a little bit more. They have more time with that. So I mean, if it's there and it's in the game, then it might be a continuous bug that's basically just a pop in or something that's just not loading correctly. So
And that's where
I
I
mean,
was.
at least it didn't break the game for
Yeah,
you.
and that's and again, it takes me out of it a little bit in like story wise or what have you. I'm like, oh, okay, but
Just the
yeah,
immersion.
it's the immersion portion. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
kind of took me out a little bit, but
Hmm.
and so that kind of like, it didn't frustrate me too much, just because again, it didn't happen often enough where it screwed me over. It's not like I was in a
Hmm.
battle and all of a sudden like this dude's fucking me up and I can't move kind of sense.
Right,
But it
right,
does.
right.
It's one of those things where I'm not that type of person of like, oh, we'll drop to 10 frames per second. I mean, I can notice that, but let's say going from like 60 to like 50, I'm not going to be like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like, I'm not that type of person. But like to see obvious things like that, I was kind of like, come on, dude. I
Yeah,
mean, like again, this is not a fresh game. This is
right.
probably what it came out October. I don't know when it did,
Hmm.
but like October, November, or something like that. So we got December, January, February, March, April, May. Well, this is almost May. So like 5 months. Like you can't patch maybe those types of things in there. I don't know, but it.
Well, there's always continuous any kind of like updates and stuff like that they're doing with the game.
Mhm.
Uh, one of those things is probably one of those things that they try to tackle for so long, and it's just there. It's just one of those things that like frame rate issues, like with Metro Exodus. I have that happen quite often where there's even scenes where I went into an actual level or like this little cave area, and the characters didn't even trigger because they were in their T pose.
Oh
They didn't even activate,
shit.
and you can still get close to them and still kill them,
Mhm.
and they would have the animation like they did die, but they never moved.
Mhm.
So it happened. That only happened once, but I've seen it where like you'll see some things in there where the game doesn't do it
Mhm.
correctly, and it doesn't pop in correctly. Like you're always kind of some characters will vanish and then come together
Mhm.
right then and there because the game is real choppy. The way that they made it, the engine itself is like not smooth like how like Doom Legacy is. Like
Mhm.
that's the smooth as butter. Like that's
Oh my god,
the
it's nuts.
everything is just so smooth. Yeah, it's so night and day when you see what's happening in that game and then you see what's like happening in like in your game with that one. Like you can see the difference.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. It's like how fast and fluid Doom
Hmm.
Eternal is with all the things that are happening, all the enemies that are popping up, all the different animations, all the different ways that they attack and animate, and then you go over to like I was just fighting one dude with a lightsaber and it fucking froze. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like that, I don't know.
yeah,
It again
yeah.
threw me off. I'm not gonna like, throw a fit against this game.
Right.
But it was something I noticed, and but that's pretty much my thoughts on Star Wars. I had a good time with it. I thought it was
Okay.
worth the money
Do
there.
you was the story compelling enough with that character where he's like one of the last Jedi's that survived in this after the Order 66? Um, does it was the character like was he interesting or is he just like what was his deal? Because
I
I don't know who he is.
I enjoyed because okay. So if you don't know, it's you watch Shameless, right?
Yes, the
So
first couple seasons. Yeah.
so it is. Let me try to find his name.
Are you saying David Duchovny? Did he voice the Jedi?
No, it's Cameron Monaghan. So
Cameron Monaghan.
he's the ginger.
Okay, he's the bald dude.
No. Let me try to find Ian
Oh,
from.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Californication. That's what I
Oh
thought
no,
you
not
said.
David. Yeah, no, not David Coveney. It's Shameless. It's on Showtime.
Okay. No. I've only watched a couple episodes of that, but no, I haven't. I never got into it.
Oh, okay. So he's in there. He does a really good performance, and I think it's
Mhm.
one of his first times like actually mocap in a video game. But the like his story is cool. I like that. It was compelling. Like I enjoyed, like seeing how he had to kind of hide himself and not be a Jedi, and then having to bust it out and kind of be like, all right, I got to learn my skills, I got to do this. And then the fact that they added different types of like enemies, like the Inquisitor, and called it the Second Sister, and you have a couple of bosses that are either Jedi or from the Empire. Some of them are like animals, believe it or
Mhm.
not, like weird giant
Hmm.
things. So it was cool, kind of like balancing, going back and forth between fighting like real human um, enemies versus like animals. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I didn't like really go into the lore. Like I just realized, okay, he's got to. The ultimate story behind it is okay. You're hiding at first. After the Order 66, you get discovered. You're trying to escape. You do escape. The ultimate story is trying to find the list of force sensitive children.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a list out there, so you can find them in order to basically, because the Jedi or the Empire is trying to get this list as well. So it's kind of like a race to see who will get the list first, and obviously you get it, and that way
Mhm.
you can kind of protect it from the Empire. I mean, ultimately,
Gotcha.
at the end, kind of was a little weird to me, but I don't know if I'll even spoil that or not. Um, I'll just spoil. So anybody that doesn't care,
S-
stop listening
Spoilers.
for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah.
Um, so at the end of it, when you get the list of force sensitive children, he ends up just breaking it and being like, the force will find them or help them, kind of thing. And that was
Oh, okay.
kind of it. So like he opened it up, opened the little square up, the cube. It was like, oh, here's where they are. So you can kind of go find them, protect them, and then he ended up breaking them. Like the force is with them. Like we don't need to actually search for them. They'll be fine.
Does it give you like a catalog of like the names? Does it give you like an Easter egg kind of thing where it shows you something, or does it is it just like kind of GPS locations of where these people are?
I thought they would, but they didn't. So it was.
Ah, see, I thought that would do something like
I
that.
was looking
That's what
for
I
it because
that's what I thought.
I'm like, oh, maybe they're hiding a name somewhere. So when he
Mm-hmm.
opens the
Mm-hmm.
cube, it becomes a hologram, and it just shows, how in
Right.
Star Wars it just shows like the space, and there's little
Right.
dots everywhere. The dots were
Right.
there, and then he just breaks in. That's it. I'm like, oh,
Right.
all right. Well,
Or that
that's
can be the lead into like the next one if they're gonna
right.
do it. It leaves it open. Yeah.
Leaves it open.
Okay.
But I was like, ah. And there was another cool thing at the like towards the end where again you're dealing with all these other Empire characters and things like that, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I forgot one of the one of the other guys are in this too, which I won't spoil
Okay.
because it was really
Well,
cool like seeing it. But
that's that's good that I mean that game was really interesting to me because it's got like the Uncharted kind of
that's what it was. Yeah.
what like kind of like where Uncharted like where you can be able to traverse through everything. You can it gave me a Prince of Persia
Mm-hmm.
vibe to it where you can ride on the wall or you
Mm-hmm.
can run on the walls, and then you can be able to like use your lightsaber, and then it's kind of a mixture of that with like Dark Souls, Bloodborne,
Mm-hmm.
where you can lock onto the target. You can lock onto him, can't you?
Yes.
Or can you?
Yes.
Okay,
You can walk on.
so like I love stuff like that, man, because I mean that takes me into like all the Demon Souls, Dark Souls, even Bloodborne. Like I love those ones. They're brutal, and just the combat that they gave you, where they that mechanic where if you die, you have to come back,
Mm-hmm.
or you save yourself at the checkpoint, and everything revives back over again. Like I love that. It makes you have to think about what you're doing. So that game, I knew that they had. I didn't know that they had those elements in it where you had to respawn
Mhm.
your stuff in there, but I knew that you can lock on to the characters. So
Yeah, it's not
um
as brutal as Bloodborne because I played a good
no,
amount of
no,
that. But like, oh
that's
my god,
unforgiving.
yeah. But the fact that they added those
Right,
types of mechanics in this
right.
game to kind of combine it, like it, you have to be methodical. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself dying a lot, and again, learning different enemies. Movements and attacks, and then being able to kind of dodge and jump around and kind of block and parry, being able to
Yeah,
time it correctly, and then parry, and then be able to destroy like anything in your way. It's cool to see
yeah,
that kind of stuff, to kind of be taking all the different elements that are awesome in different games and kind of combine them here, and
yeah.
that's the parts that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I like that the little your companion that's with you. Like, I like that he's behind your back and he's like holding on to you. And I saw some scenes where like when you're going through little areas, like you're kind of traversing through like narrow passages,
Hmm.
he'll jump off of you and like find a way to like come back onto you,
Yeah, and just
in a
moving
different route.
through like the crevices and stuff, and he
Yeah,
he moves, either he moves and kind of like shuffles himself around, or like,
yeah,
or the main character will move him and place him so that he can kind of traverse in the same
yeah.
way. Is is cool to me.
And he's also like he's the companion that can help you like get to like open doors and stuff like that. But he's also your health meter, isn't he? Like
Yeah.
he when he's
So,
green, he on your back it shows your health indicator on the light, right?
well, I didn't notice that part, but I did. He does like this is the funny part. I was playing the game, and you can get like these stim packs that like just pop in your health or whatever,
Yeah.
and I thought they would be permanently lost, so I never
Mhm.
used them. But I didn't
Mhm.
realize every time you go to a save point, they regenerate. So you like have up to
Oh,
like
okay.
5 or 6. So I kept dying, and I could have just hit up on the D-pad, and then the BD1 would have threw a med pack at me, and I would have just been fine. But I ended up like through maybe an hour or two of the game getting frustrated and being like, ah, what the fuck, I can't get through this. But I should have just kept using the health packs. But he's there to open up doors. He's there to give you health. I didn't notice that, but when I did things I did notice specifically about the light bar
Mhm.
was that uh, your lightsaber, when you do choose the color you want for your new lightsaber, regardless of what color it is, it does show on the light bar on the PS4 what color it is. I chose like
Oh,
purple.
that's cool.
Yeah, I chose purple. So on my light bar, whenever I faced enemies, it showed purple until, like, if your health is low or red, then it'll show red. But like for the
Mm.
most part, your lightsaber is your light bar, and that was really cool.
So you chose the bad motherfucker weapon.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Most definitely. Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Samuel Jackson. Okay,
Okay.
we
So
doing a little
that's
of
what you
that.
that's what you picked.
Yep.
You picked the purple one, of course.
No doubt, no doubt. I saw that and I was like, picking that
You're
bitch
like
right there.
you're like, of course I do.
Yeah, shut your mouth. You know.
That's great, man. That game really does have a lot of those little elements that I really do I enjoy. So I think based off of that, based off of like the combat itself, I think that would be something I definitely would want to get into and actually be able to play
I
because I
got
mean
it here
that's
for you, man. If you want to borrow it, I'm done.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll keep throwing you
Dude,
shit.
I'm curious. So these games that you're actually playing,
Hmm.
how long does it take you to get through this? Are you dedicating a couple days? What's your time of
My
like? Are you doing
schedule.
like,
So
yeah? Are you doing like 6 hours? Are you going 5 hours plus? What are you doing?
usually around there. So I'm lucky enough that my fiance likes naps. Um,
Yeah,
so when she's not playing Animal Crossing using the TV, she'll take naps, and then I'll go in, and then I'll probably go. I would say like at least 5 hours a day. I would say,
yeah.
because there's a couple
Okay.
of hours that either she's not using the TV or the monitor, I should say, and then she's taking naps. So I'll pop in, do my thing, and then kind of go from there. So I'll get
Yeah.
through a good amount of games and not too long, especially if they're not more than like 20 hours. So my
Right.
goal is to kind of, again, get through as much as I can and be done with it.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely I'm really interested in that one. I want to finish Metro Exodus because I mean, I'm liking what they're doing with it. I like now you're having more of a consequence of like your actions. I'm really liking that. There's some elements in there that remind me of Metro Last Light, just
Hmm.
because there's parts of it that you actually like get to sit down. That's one of the things about the Metro series that I like is that you sit down and you have conversations with somebody and they're telling you about their lives. You know, before you go on a mission or before you go to where you want to, you can talk to everybody. You can get next to everybody, and they can talk to you for a second and give you their insight of like what's happening and like the changes that have happened. So it's like they they have so much that the characters, you know, they have like diarrhea of the mouth all the
Hmm.
time because they're always telling you everything. I just wish your character I wish your character would say that because
Like, shut up.
I like, yeah, you know, either that or just like let him talk, let him
Yeah.
be the one to like tell you how he really feels, or maybe talk about his experiences going out in the world when you were stuck there at the train and you didn't do what I did, you know,
Hmm.
like I would like if they had stuff like that. And it's a minor little thing because I'm enjoying the actual game itself.
Hmm.
It harkens me back to like Fallout 4 on like
Hmm.
how the scope of that game and like how fun it is. And even though your character itself, does, have to like mow down these enemies, it just, the world itself that they created is just so interesting, and the people that you talk to. But it's just a difference. Your character can actually talk to these characters and they interact with them, so it's different. You can determine what kind of conversation you want to have based on the dialogue tree. So
Yeah, and
um
I ended up, I think I didn't buy the newest one that you're the Exodus, but I think
mhm.
I did buy the collection or the Last Light or something.
The
I
Redux.
the Redux. That's the one I have. That's
Yes.
the one that
Yeah.
has two of them in there.
Yes, that's the one that they did the first one, the 2033, I believe that's the name of it.
Oh, okay.
And then they did Last Light, and then they reworked the mechanics in that first game to work along with like what they did the improvements in Last Light in the second one.
Yeah,
So they made some improvements and put it in there.
I'm pretty
And they also
sure I
put
have
the like
that.
the resolution to like HD too.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I have that, and like again, I just fucking look at shit, buy it, and then forget that I even bought it and don't get back to it again. I literally bought like a 300 like CD like case like for
Yeah.
CDs or DVDs or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, a good amount of it is like Blu-rays, but I had like my PS4 games, my PS3 games, and
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, I have a lot of PS4 games. Let me get through. But like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I looked in last night, going through stuff to see what I wanted to get to. And yeah, I think I still have that, so I jump into that and maybe play the first two and see where it goes. But again, not making any promises. But
Right.
that is my list of stuff that I've been playing for the last
Yeah,
almost 2 weeks. I think.
that's awesome, man. I mean, I love the fact that you're going back and playing Dead Space. I have so many fond memories of that game, and just the way that they introduce the world of like what happens. Like I like stuff like that. Like I like space exploration, that like they're mining this planet and then something happens and it either infects everybody and every like this whole mining colony disappears, or like the mystery of like what the hell happened, and you just get thrown into it and you don't know what's happening, and then when you start to see what's happening and what these people are, it's like, oh shit, and like the people that you're attacking, are these colony people. Like I mean, if someone hasn't played the game, it's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't want to, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but
Yeah,
it's basically like when you discover what it is that's happening, you're just like, oh shit, like it feels like there's actually some weight to what you're doing, even though they're like mindless monsters that are gonna come at you. There's a story with these guys, like there's a story with all of them, so it's interesting on like what happens. I like that stuff.
that's good to know too, because I didn't realize that it went that far and in depth with like the other side of it. You're killing these enemies, but I didn't realize that there was something deeper as far as story goes. And I'm glad that
Yeah.
you enjoy the series and things, so I can kind of play that. And it was so random too, because I went into horror because I'm like, oh, what horror games after Resident Evil I can get into? And that was one of
Yeah.
the things where I'm like, oh, I'm looking through my bookcase and I'm like, oh, well, that's in there. Maybe I'll try that. I remember liking the UI system and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, good pick, I guess, for me. That way we can go back and
Yeah,
forth more.
yeah, yeah. The first one's good. It sets the groundwork for what they're doing, and the second one really just elevates what it is that you can do with that. Your weapon, but also it's a variety of weapons, and you can upgrade your suit and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cool stuff to it, and I like the fact that you're by yourself and you're isolated and you have no help but you're just yourself, and the game doesn't break that where you can pause it and you can be able to take a break. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can stand if you want to, like you can stay in one spot if you want to, and open up the menu and stuff like that. I just love that the way that they did that. Like it's just it's so unique because a lot of games don't do that. Like some games do that, but they do that on purpose because they want the player to stay immersed into it. They don't like to break that where that pause button happens.
Yeah, and I'm glad again I chose it. Just the cool part of it being in space, and then
Yeah.
getting stuck on this ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to me, and
Yeah.
looking forward to
If
it.
if once you finish that, if you can't find another horror movie to watch or
Game,
to be able to play,
yeah.
watch a movie called Pandorum. That's a really good movie. It's that space kind of thing
Hmm.
where they're on a ship. I don't want to tell you anything about it, but it's really cool. It's a really cool concept of like what's happening within that movie. It came out. I don't even know when it came out. It came out like maybe it's I'd say 7 to 10 years ago.
Okay.
Uh, but the guys the main character, I forget what the dude's name is, but he was in a movie called The Messenger with Woody Harrelson.
Hmm.
He was the co-star along with him. So I don't remember his name. I think his name's like Ben something. I forget. But
I'll check
anyways,
it out. I'll see. See
good
what's up.
good flick.
One
Good flick.
one question for you. So you're on Metro right now. What's on
Mm-hmm.
your horizon? What's next?
I want to finish that Metro Exodus. I want to finish Doom Eternal,
Hmm.
and after that, I don't really know what I want to do at that
I
point.
mean, let
I
me
think I
know if
want.
you want to borrow anything from me, because clearly I have a
Yeah,
shit
I
ton
mean,
of stuff. But if you have anything
I
in mind,
yeah, I mean, I definitely want to take advantage of the the Star Wars. That one that one sounds really interesting and like especially it's right around like the wheelhouse of like what I like.
hmm
Um, but I don't know. I think honestly, I think maybe checking out the Resident Evil ones.
hmm
I think that would be something I'd really like to actually like try just play because that would take me back to a lot of like real fond memories. But um, I think within I haven't made my 100% decision yet, but I'm almost to the point of like getting a Switch.
oh yeah,
So
come on over. Let's go.
once I'm gonna do that, I've been playing with the idea and I can do it at any time. I'm haven't convinced myself 100% to get it yet because I also heard that there might be another console coming out or another pro version of it or something.
There were supposed to be
So
rumors
I
of
don't
it,
know.
but what? And this is just me being a nerdy person
Uh
because
huh.
I like to hack things. I ended up so my girl has a Switch. I have the
Mhm.
original Switch, and I thought about maybe doing some
Mhm.
homebrew on the original one, but I know
Mm,
that
there you go.
they can't, like Nintendo can't really do much to like patch because it's more hardware related as
Right.
far as homebrew goes.
Mhm.
So I may look into that, but I know the pro version they're taking out, like they're adding a new chip in there where it's not going to be possible, at least for now. So that's why I was like,
Okay.
I'm glad I have the OG one just in case I want to dabble somewhere.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
Switch would
That
be
might.
cool to do. Just don't do the light one.
Yeah. No. I definitely would want the actual one that goes in that you could be able to play on the actual TV. So
Yeah.
I haven't gotten myself to 100% on there. But I'm wavering back and forth just because I don't know. I wanna play Mario Odyssey. I want to play that game. I haven't played that since I went to E3 when they first
Yep.
announced it, and I was actually playing it. So I really want to actually play that game. So,
I haven't finished that
but
one either. I'll let you borrow that one
Ha-
too.
okay, I haven't gotten there yet, so maybe that
Yeah.
might be the defining factor for me to be able to get that, so I could be able to just play that. But yeah, I definitely want to actually play that because I have just so many fond memories of just playing it. Just when I played it for like only like 10 minutes,
Oh, it's fun.
and I was just like, man, I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm sold. I was sold.
It's fun.
So,
It's a fun game.
but at that, we're almost breaking our own record at almost 3 hours.
Look, man, I
I
don't know what
mean,
to tell
we've
you. Every time we do this, it's like it's longer and longer. I don't have a problem with it. I'm enjoying shooting
no,
the shit.
no. I mean,
Um,
it's really fun just because the stuff that we're just like bouncing like ourselves like ideas on like what we're actually talking about. It doesn't feel like you're really like having to move into a conversation that you're just like I get stuck or whatever. It really feels. I think that's why like it's really good to be able to have you along into this podcast now. It's just because we both can be able to try to veer each other off and like try to be able to get onto another topic and like try to like keep ourselves at least attached into like figuring us into a segment or like a, a, a structure narrative because we talk so we talk so much and we just start thinking about what we want to what it is and it's so fun, man.
I
I mean,
almost
honestly, it's so fun.
and I appreciate you having me on here and then being a permanent person on the podcast.
Hmm.
But it's when it's not forced. I can literally I could make this longer. Like I could go
Yeah,
off and we can go into tangents because it's easy to go
yeah,
on tangents. I feel
yeah.
like I almost try not to do it as much because I know it's going to go even longer. Um, but it's always fun doing it and getting things out
Yeah.
there and shooting the shit.
Yeah, man. And now you have your Kojima corner.
Oh
You
look,
got your own.
there we go.
You get you got your own segment in there. So I
Look,
mean, it's dedicated straight for you.
well, I don't know how how many things every time there's going to be in the podcast, but I'll try to make some kind of maybe I'll turn it into a random Metal Gear fact that people are going to know about.
Or a little factoid. You're
Well,
like that. You're like that one person that's just like trying to like insert themselves into the conversation somehow, and they don't like to talk about football, but maybe
no,
they could like say something. They're just like, oh, did you know this?
did you know this? And now Kojima is in there somehow in this conversation. That's what I do. That's what I do.
That's great. That's great. Well, I is great time as always. I think that this is a great final conclusion to our part two of our podcast, which is even longer than our first one,
Believe it or
than the
not.
first part, which is wild. But yeah, man, I think it's something like what we wanna do for continuing forward. It's just kind of you and I will kind of talk in on everything else and try
Yeah,
to get everything structured on the way that we want
yeah,
to be able to get everything going. But for the time being, man, it's been so much fun. I enjoy doing this and the fact that we have time and we can do it. You know, this is great. And now that we can be able to like other games that I have that you may not have, we can be able to just play like do that where you can just share it within each other. That's great, man. Because I mean, there's so many games that I have that you may not have either. So it's like we could be able to play. We can find these other games that we didn't even know about.
yeah, man. It's like similar tastes yet different at the same time. Like I was saying earlier, was you know we can riff off and do the same thing, but we have different
Hmm.
perspectives
Yeah.
to have longer conversations and kind of get through maybe things that we didn't see that you may have seen, or vice versa. Um,
Right.
but it's also just fun to do. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
I've
Exactly.
again never done this. Is like what, my fourth time doing this, so
Yeah.
it's been fun. We're gonna learn stuff. We're gonna talk through on how to make this bigger and better, and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll learn more about Kojima and like what's going on with him
That's
because you're plugged into him.
that's my mission.
So whatever he does, you know about. So
That's
that's great.
that's my mission. I'm big boss, right?
That's right. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
All All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you do want to watch the video version of this, we will have that as well. I probably should have mentioned that in the very beginning, not close to almost 3 hours from now. But there's always going to be an audio version of this, which is the podcast, which you can be able to find through iTunes, Google Play, and also through SoundCloud. But you can also find the YouTube version of this where you'll have the videos, the segments of what we talk about and all these things. You can be able to find that at youtube.com// level one tester. And the level one is spelled ONE. And you can be able to find it there. And that's where some of the games that we have that we play as well. So that's recorded. So that's Metro Exodus is on there too. So that's one other thing that I might want to get you into, where you can actually start recording some of your gameplay since you start playing it so much. That might be something we can actually, you and I can start talking about and have that maybe introduced into that as well. So like all the games that you're playing, you can be able to add that in there as well.
Yeah, I'm starting to think about dabbling into that realm because I've
Okay.
never done that before. So I'll definitely need some
Okay.
tips and tricks.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening and hearing us talk for close almost 3 hours of your precious time. So we'll see you guys next week or the next couple days whenever we want to actually do this. So
Whatever.
yeah, whenever. Once again, my name is Tony,
My name's Rob.
or no, you're
Sorry,
your
Big
big
Boss.
boss,
Big Boss.
big boss.
There we go.
Kojima's corner, big boss.
Yep. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Peace.
Bye.